Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round number 2 of the 2025 ASR Supercars Championship. We have left the last circuit well and truly behind. Sydney Motorsport Park seems like a faraway dream, although it was only 2 weeks ago. We are a little bit further north than that for one of the earlier times that we have approached the Surfers Paradise Street Circuit on a calendar in quite some time. It's the Gold Coast 200. It means that's a pair of two 100-kilometre races around this concrete line jungle, and concrete bites when concrete and metal collide. And if anything was to go by in the development series a couple of, actually 7 days ago now, we wait with bated breath to see what will unfold over the course of the 2 34-lap races tonight.
Bated breath is definitely a way to put it. Good evening to everyone watching along at home, or good morning, or good afternoon, or good wherever you are, from wherever you are. We were here 7 days ago with the Dev Series, and as will be customary this year, Nether and I were on the grid for that Dev Series race. All I will say, without going into too much in the just yet, is that Supercars has a much better history of conduct at Gold Coast, and we hope that will continue again tonight.
We certainly do. And well, there's been a bit of history at this place. There's been plenty of surprise results, plenty of interesting things. And although it is a smaller than usual field tonight, the hope is, of course, that it means the racing will be very, very close, and we won't have to worry about that dreaded safety car coming out too often tonight, although the possibility does, of course, remain high. We're only 1 round through the 12 rounds of the championship. Just 2 races have taken place so far, both of those at Sydney Motorsport Park. 2 different layouts, so if you're just playing some catch up with the broadcast from the rounds you missed 2 weeks ago, we did the short layout in a sprint format and the longer layout in a more longer distance format, and that did shake up the order a little bit. When we get to the point standings, you'll actually see how that actually played out at the end of it all, because it was quite a challenge for a few drivers to be able to switch their brains off of the shorter layout to the longer layout. We expected a lot more drivers to go left at turn 4 in the second race, but unsurprisingly, none of them did. They managed to sort themselves out and realise that yes, the track does actually go to the right in the second layout. They don't have any worries like that tonight. They have got the circuit that goes the same way on both occasions. There's no change to the layout. It's not like a couple of years ago when we had that little interim race during the Enduro Cup with the Stadium Super Trucks coming out. They don't have to worry about any of that malarkey tonight. They've got a circuit that goes every single way, the right way, which of course is one direction around this circuit. So let's have a look at the circuit in question. Rody, it is one of those little circuits that everybody sort of loves to hate. You know, it's like Winton in a way. You know, you love it or you hate it. A lot of drivers, they absolutely love it because they love the challenge, and a few drivers look at this and they cringe and they worry about their result and think that it might be their drop round. So you've got people with feet in one camp, people with feet in the other camp, and people with feet in both camps. I don't know what side you and I reside on, but I'm sort of the one that has the feet in the camp of I don't like it.
I don't mind Gold Coast as a track. I've had some good results here. I've had some bad results here. It's very much a track that I think any street circuit is, to be fair. You've got to be on your game. You've got to be there and present in the moment to be anywhere near competitive and, dare I say, competent on the grid in the night. But yeah, it's going to be a similar thing for the guys tonight. But yeah, it's a good track. It's one of those things, I think, as a track. It started off being raced on in the longer version as support to the IndyCar and the kart when they came down here in the 90s. Amazingly, we've actually managed to keep it going as long as we have, and partially for the party atmosphere that brings IRL. But I very much get the feeling that if it was a similar situation to, say, Albert Park, where Albert Park spent a lot of time as an exhibition race with no points, with no real reason to be there, that a lot of teams, at least in the era where participation was optional, might not have come here. And to be fair, a lot of teams, when they did come here and were focusing on points, intentionally brought older chassis to this round because Gold Coast is a car killer. And we've seen it in Dev Series to a degree. Actually, most of it was minor accidents, but there were still accidents tied up in it. But we've seen this in Supercars as well. I think we even go back through our history, and we've had some bad races, but as much as that's been driver conduct, some of it's just been Gold Coast with bites. It's got, we see there's, you can argue technically, I suppose, 3 chicanes or 3 chicane complexes. Technically, the back chicane, the beat chicane, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, is one chicane complex all in of itself, but you can have a perfectly set up car and be running perfectly well, and all you have to do is get a little bit offline through one of those sections, through 1 through 2, 3, or through 6 through 10, and boom, tyre wall or concrete wall, and your day is done.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And the other part too, we shouldn't forget to mention is the braking zones, because there's some pretty heavy stops around here. So big heavy stop approach to turn 1, because it is one of the high speed parts of the circuit. You've got the bailout room there, hairpin, end of the back chicane, end of the back straight, a couple of the 90-degree corners as well. You have fortunately got those little runoff areas that if you overcommit, you've got an escape avenue, so you can go down them without damaging your car. The only downside is you've got to do a flick spin, come back out the other way, and it does cost you a bit of time. So people that get a little bit overexcited and a little bit over aggressive at certain parts of the track will pay a penalty in some form or another, whether that's with car meeting concrete or car going down the escape road and losing spots. It's just one of those things, as you said, that it bites. It's one of those things, drivers if you make a mistake, you're punished very, very heavily for it.
Absolutely, but it's that said, these guys some of them have had, I think we've had the season in some way every year since 2018. So some of them have got, quick math, that's 8 years worth of experience around this place. I think generally speaking, with a lot of Supercars grid, you're looking at probably 3 to 4 years experience at least around here. Granted, these cars are wider than the cars they are quote unquote used to, but to be fair, they've done Gen 3 at Gold Coast before. They did it, it wasn't quite 12 months ago. It was in its usual place in the calendar, which was the back half of the year. But within the last 6 months or so, they've been here. They know how to get the cars around here. It's just maybe adapting to maybe some new setup changes they made for this year. And just the biggest thing, and it's still going to be a thing for these guys as they get into the first couple of rounds, is just getting to know everyone again. A lot of guys they're familiar with, but some guys they're not. There's been the promotions that have come up through Dev Series. There'll be some guys that have returned to the series as well, and just getting acclimatized, because some guys are a lot quicker than they were last year, and that sort of matters around a circuit where you very much need to know exactly who you're racing at any given time, because the circuit's only wide enough to go 2 cars in most sections outside of the chicanes, because that's not a smart move. But just because it's wide enough to do it legally and all that, you've actually got to trust the guy next to you. We've seen plenty of incidents at Gold Coast IRL of just not knowing what the guy next to you is about to do.
Yeah, that's right. So briefing has been completed. We're just waiting on a couple of small formalities to just be finalised before we go to qualifying. Unlike the last round, it is a single qualifying session tonight. Then there is a top 10 shootout to follow that. And then we get stuck into race number 1 with race number 2 to be gridded up based on the finishing results of race number 1. That's how it all goes to plan. So while we actually wait for those last few formalities to be sorted out, we're going to have a look at what the standings look like entering the night. So after just one round, you can see we have a tie at the top of the points standings because it was a win and a second place apiece for Will Devonish and Kurt Stenberg. But by virtue of the two pole positions at both the races in both the qualifying sessions at Sydney Motorsport Park, Will Devonish is adjudged to be ahead. So that's why he is on top as of the two of them who have the same amount of points. Good round for Igmanis as well. That's probably one of the best starts he's had to the championship campaign in a little while with some good solid results and third in the points. Bit of a gap back to Ryan Smith and Brenton Foley in the top five. They're the only five drivers above 200 points. Noah Tara with some post-race penalties that piled up and has dropped him a bit further down the order. Just ahead of Aidan Williams, who's missing tonight. And then the first of the SES Shogun Camaros in Luke Newing. Damon McDonald and Daniel Cox rounding out the top 10 there. And as we now go over the page and we'll have a look at 11 through 10, it's this is where it starts to get a bit tight, Rody, because we have a look here and you can see you've got Callaghan and Steve Warwick tied on points, Ethan Knight, Phil Boak, Ben Hall, even though Ben Hall's a substitute, tied on points. So there's a few, it's early days in the championship, but I guess it goes to show the fact that a lot of drivers are, tied on points. Probably the most amount of drivers we've had tied on points in, as far as I can recall, a very long time. Even though it's very early in the season, does go to show that the competition is on this year, I think.
It does, yeah, and it's just an interesting one for it to play it that way. First and second, that's an easy one. It says the one that you focus on, it's the top of the pile, it's the one where a lot of the broadcast attention is focused on. And the way that they were racing last round, it was definitely not impossible that you'd end up with a tie for first place. And yeah, we haven't actually had to do a count back to that level. And look, the way the season plays out, I very much doubt we're going to get to a count back. But if we get to a count back because they're tied on points at the end of the year, then probably might ultimately have to be qualifying if they've managed to do the same thing and just switch positions the entire way through the year. Australia are going to work that out with 3 race and 1 race rounds, but they'll figure it out. But yeah, to then get the ties through Callaghan and Warwick over what is 14th and Knight and Boak and Hall over what would be 16th. Yeah, it's interesting to have that play out the way it has because they've all got very different ways of getting there. Callaghan was a 19th and an 11th compared to Warwick, which is a 14th and a 16th. Then you go down to 9. And the interesting combination as well in that is that Ben Hall got an 11th in one of the races. So you think, oh, he's doing all right. But also the next race, he got 21st. So that's what brought him back into tying with Boak and Ethan Knight. And basically the theme for a lot of those guys was they had a good race and a less so good race. The exceptions to that is Knight, 17th and a 15th. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Steve Roach with a 14th and a 16th. They were both pretty consistent. But other guys, they had a bad race and a good race. But it's interesting just the way the points have played out for that to be the thing. And not only is there a 2-way tie of a 14th and a 3-way tie of a 16th, they're all then separated by only 6 points.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is pretty tight splits as well.
It is indeed. And then you have a look there, the 20th car that's on the list there, Rory Collins, the 00 PBF by SES. I guess we call that one the Matt Stone Superlight-esque entry this year. That car not being represented tonight. From what we can see, it was scheduled to be in the hands of Nathan Higginson, who has just stepped back with some commitments in the last couple of days, and the option was given to Collins to take that car on, but has elected not to do so.
Yeah, the only thing I would say perhaps for Rory, and he can jump in and say other stuff on it. I think for maybe for his case, I know he's been pretty hyped, maybe isn't the correct word, but he's been very much on board with the whole Minecraft movie stuff over the past week or so, when I know he was at one point heading to Macca's specifically to get the new tie-in stuff. And if I don't know, I imagine he's off doing other stuff of actual purpose Not that that isn't, but I in my head canon is that he's just gone off to get himself another I think he's rolling for the Grimace egg, which apparently is the rarest of the drops that they're giving him.
Well,
So
I got a funny feeling. I think wasn't there? We haven't done a dev series. Sorry, not a dev series. We haven't done a roast for the Supercars liveries because we haven't purely had time. But I do remember and recall seeing I think Grimace on a few end plates and things. I think it also might have been in the dev series. I think there might have been a couple there at one stage as well. So yeah, that explains a lot. And what it doesn't explain is this lash up waiting in pit lane. Everybody keen to get busy here at the moment, waiting for the green flag. And it's the CRE Anson Motorsport teammates that are first and second in the queue, heading the field out of the lane. So, as customary, 10 minutes on the clock for qualifying. It is a short, sharp session. The emphasis is on getting out there, getting your laps done, getting through your run program, and then getting back into pit lane, get a new set of boots on, and then go again, because the lap's over in about 71 or so seconds. And waiting to see how everything goes there, because then of course there is the shootout that follows after this qualifying session is over, and typically that is one of the highlights of the year, the shootouts whenever they come to be. And Gold Coast has always been sort of one of those ones that has delivered some surprises in the past. Right?
it has, yeah. It's been I may have mentioned it already. We'll talk about it again more as the night goes on. But generally a very attritional track, and even in one lap shootouts especially. So that's really the gamble of how hard do you push? Do you push an extra tenth? Do you put yourself in the fence? Because very quickly you can turn a fifth place entry to a 10th place start, and vice versa. You can be a little bit of a little bit of a cockroach, as it were, and just put in a modest time and survive. But first car on our lap is Cam Rutledge, the lead of the two CRE Anson cars. They're actually both they were line astern. It's currently Foley back there. But good start for Cam so far as he heads onto the back straight. Yeah,
clean start so far for Cam. Most of the drivers coming across the line now starting flying laps, having gone out and prepared the car as best as possible. Approaching the beach chicane here. This is the rhythm's very important here. 1, 2, 3. Oop, bit too high in the air there, and 4, and then had to actually bail out of that a little bit there because he got a little bit too high going into the third part of that chicane. Got a little bit upset with the car, and that's the hard part of this circuit. Like, it's not too bad at turn 1, 2, 3. You can usually get a pretty good line through there, but your rhythm on the back chicane is key to making lap time. You've got to pick the straightest path through. Got to find the most easiest part for you, the most easiest way for you to ride those curves.
Absolutely, yeah. We were talking about it before the broadcast started, and it's something we were both having issues with in Dev Series last week. It's just that's really
and that's what you don't, and that's what you don't do. As we see Igmanis going for a bit of a wild moment, we will capture that on the Paint Doctor replay and have a look at it. But this is what rhythm does to you when you get it wrong. So this is the approach that Turmo had. So it's a very high speed approach coming out of the hairpin up to turn 6. Through here, find there, and find there, and then too much curve there, and you end up in the fence. So it's a very difficult situation to get right.
Yeah, it's a tricky position being in that position because with how much he lifted the side of the car up, the car was basically penduluming on the edge of the sidewall of the right side tyres. It's a tricky spot because more right hand down is going to lift the car up, left hand down brings the car down, but the corner is a right hand corner, so you have to go right hand down. So basically he was stuck in a position there where there was really no good option. Either he rolled the car or he put it in the fence, and in the end he went and put it in the fence. But getting it to that point and bringing it back down again while trying to make through the chicane is a problem. So that's the one thing you really, well, two things you want to avoid with the chicanes. Cutting them, because you're only going to have a very small amount of cuts available to you in the race, and you can easily get multiple through those chicanes. But also you want to avoid having the car float like it did for Turmo there, because once it gets up, it may not come back down again.
Certainly. Tell you what, the pace of Brett Foley is no fluke. We were having a bit of I think Will Devonish was actually one that remarked, Foley, where the hell did that come from during practice? Well, he was at the top all but briefly, and now into the 109. So proving that whatever Wheat Bix he's had for breakfast, and probably for lunch and for dinner as well, I would say. He's in the game here behind Stenberg. Mitchell Steele Allison is a bit of a surprise packet at the moment, up there in third place. But granted, there are still a lot of time left on the table there. Haven't seen representative laps. Who we haven't seen laps from? We haven't seen anything from Will Devenish. Haven't seen anything from Damon McDonald. Haven't seen anything from Curtis Igmanis either. So. And I would probably say we'll see, and probably not a real true representative time from Noah Tara as well down there in 12th place.
No, he's 3 seconds off the back of first. Yeah, no, that won't be representative for him. I think one thing these guys are finding, as I've just called Kurt on what I presume to be an outlap, is traffic as well. It's not a small track, but it's not a big track, and with the way that this track is set up and structured, it's very hard to get nice little breaks from cars. It's similar to a lot of other street circuits where you'll get people pushing on, say, 8/10 of an outlap, and then if they're worried about gaps to a car in front, they'll then do that nice little check-up that you see. F1 likes to do it as well at times. Do that check-up through the last sector. They do a lot of IRL. You'll see is come to the last sector and they have to get down to like second gear because there's a train of cars in front of them. I don't think we've necessarily seen so much of that tonight, but yeah, the different speeds and the differing speeds through the chicanes is one of the things that really drags the field together, even in qualifying sessions, and that's the hardest thing I think these guys are starting to struggle with, is finding clear space to work with. Although that said, Noah has found his because he's just moved up to second.
He certainly has. He just put a purple middle sector in there and 2 personal bests to go into P2 behind Stenberg and just ahead of Foley. Those 3 are the only ones that are inside, actually sub 70 seconds at the moment. Damon McDonald's not too far away from breaching the 70-second barrier. If he can get his act together, he's just ahead of Steele Allison. Devenish has popped up into 6th place, so at the moment I would say he's probably not safe, and definitely not safe now because Luke Newing has actually just gone to the top of the table, so that's with a 109.666, so time's starting to tumble like some dominoes here at the minute. Foley down the escape road there at the end of the back straight. But yeah, definitely some times starting to pop up in the last couple of minutes or so that are starting to, I think, get a few people a little bit worried about where the cutoff is going to be getting into the shootout.
Well, it's a valid point, and it's a good thing. It's the thing that comes up with any sort of knockout style qualifying session is not only is where's the cutoff is, but also the thought just looking at it is who's out there doing representative times and who out there is maybe running at 9/10 and leaving a little bit in reserve just so that they don't show their hand too early before the shootout itself happens. Like, for example, Kurt Stenberg, I'm not saying that that Newing, I'm not trying to denigrate Kurt's performance, but I have a feeling that him being behind Newing, I don't think that's going to stay like that by the time we finish sorting out the grid for the race. But Newing could have picked up a really good run. But that said, I feel like Kurt's pretty confident he'll make the shootout. So he's probably might be on to a little bit of reserve just so that he can set something that they haven't planned for in the shootout itself. But at this stage, the only people I'd say that are comfortably in are Newing. McDonald's just gone up above Stenberg, so I'd probably put McDonald in that now as well. Stenberg, Tara, and maybe Foley.
I would say Steele Allison
is maybe Steele Allison as well. Yeah, good point. I think past that, I think you're at risk. So Devenish, Speck, Smith, Igmanis, and the guys at the other end trying to get in, Rutledge, Palfrey, and all the way back to Warwick. But I think realistically, the gap, there's a bit of a gap to come back. There's 3/10 currently between Igmanis and Rutledge, and then it comes down from there. I think Rutledge and Palfrey, maybe the only 2, at least based on times currently set, that are likely to improve enough to get into the 10. Yeah. But they'd have to make it up like 3 or 4 tenths at least.
Devenish is now safe. He's gone up with a 1 minute 09.694. He's gone up to second place, just ahead of McDonald and behind Newing. So I'd say he's safe. I was about to say a 10 flat probably gets you in, and everybody that McDonald was on a 10 flat, and he's moved up the order now as well. And we're now got 7 people in the 109s. Foley, a 109.9 is the last of those. So then Speck, Ryan Smith, Curtis Igmanis, they're the last ones in the 10. Igmanis is only ahead of Palfrey by about a 10th and a little bit. So Palfrey is one that we want to be keeping an eye on in the next few minutes or so to see what he can actually do. He is on a lap at the moment. He'll probably get one more if he's got some fuel for it. I mean, that's second off the top time there and miles off his PB. So this one's probably not going to be the one for him, but he will probably get one more shot at it. when he can get around to the start-finish line, probably with a handful of seconds left on the clock, and see what he's able to do. Ethan Knight, another one that we probably expect would probably put a slightly better time in than what he's got at the moment. He's currently last of all those that have set times. Ben Hall not partaking in qualifying, it appears, sitting this one out in the pit lane and opting to start from the back. It's a bit of a risk.
It is, yeah. And I was just looking at times. I should have spotted Foley's around at the hairpin, so I hope that he might be at risk then, because he'll get around for the lap.
Yeah, he won't get another lap. He's actually pulled the pin on it, so he is 7th at the moment. And cars that are around him are the likes of Luke Speck. Ryan Smith has put the queue in the rack here. Keeping an eye on Ethan Knight, who's got a reasonable middle sector there at the moment. He's got 2 green sectors to his name. Oh, he's run wide at the hairpin. That's going to screw the lap, and that will be curtains for him, I would say. 2 green sectors means nothing now when you bite off more than you can chew and can't chew like hell at the final corner.
Yeah, he will have improved all of a spot. So he puts him ahead of Locke, who
Spec with a moment out of the. We just couldn't see that. Spec with a moment out of the final, out of the back into the back straight. So that means that he is locked up into 8th place. Igmanis in 9th Igmanis in 10th does not improve. Palfrey is out, so he's not going to improve here. So Cox has not got anything left on the clock. Darren Lognan going very slowly up the back, and that is all she wrote. There's nobody else that looks like they're on outlaps anywhere. Tara, actually no, Tara went to the top of the time screens in all of that with a 9.3.
I don't think, I was going to say, he did. So he went up, as did Steele Allison up to 2nd.
Oh yeah, they did too.
So, as I mentioned, I still reckon Kurt's hanging on to something there, but for Taro, that's probably pretty close to his best for Steele Allison. I'm not saying that he couldn't be, but based off previous pace, I reckon that's probably 10/10 for Steele Allison as well. But very good laps from those for a lot of those guys. That Stenberg's in 3rd, Devonish is in 4th, and Foley, even with his pace, has been pushed down to 7th.
Yeah, he has indeed. Oh, he was 7th anyway before he pulled the pin, so there was no change.
Oh, he was, but just the amount of other guys in this top 10. Steele Allison, Newings up there, McDonald's finally. We expected he'd be up there anyway, but he's taken a little bit longer than we thought to get used to Gen 3. And then Spec to get up there as well. And I thought I lost my list, but Ryan Smith and Curtis Igmanis making the 10 as well.
Yeah, so Igmanis managed to get through into the shootout by a little under 2 tenths. It was actually probably closer to a 1/10 and a half at the end of the day. And so he was 11th. Lognan was 12th. And then he ended up with Rutledge, Warwick, Cox, Knight, Locke in 17th, and then Ben Hall, of course, did not set a time in all of that as well. So we'll wait and see how all that unfolds when we get to the other side of the shootout, which is not too far away. We've had plenty of shootouts here over the course of time. We've had them at Sandown, we've had them at Gold Coast, we've had them at Bathurst. There's something good to come a bit later on in the season. It's not. It's actually not too far away. It's at round 4. Something we can reveal for the development series and for the supercars. We are going to have at Symmons Plains a 3-part qualifying.
We will, yeah. It's something that we're obviously very familiar with from the world of Formula One. They're sort of, I think they're the only guys at this point that run anything like that. It's something different, something we're trying just for a bit of variety. But we picked a very appropriate track for it, being Symmons Plains. It's one of technically, I think it's equal shortest track on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
But Barbagallo feels like a much bigger track. Just I think given just the size that you kind of get go-kart track design vibes from Symmons, being that like half the track length uses essentially the same plot of land. It just goes up and back. But yeah, something different. It will hopefully, it'll mean that those at the top end of the field will get a little bit more track to themselves. It's not going to be quite the strength of a shootout, but it's going to be a situation where they only have to deal with another 9 cars on the track versus standard qualifying, where you have potentially up to 30. And I think Dev Series limits 32 or something this year.
The limit's been 30 for this year. It's slightly less than last year at 34. We didn't get the same number of entries this year, but we did get a little bit of still got a high level of entries for the season, which is good. But yeah, depending on how many cars enter the night, the whole pretense is that you lose X number of cars in the first couple of sessions, and then by the time you get to the third part of qualifying, you are down to a top 10. So let's just say out of the cars that are registered, we'll say we get 25 cars for the night. We will work out how many we lose in the first part of qualifying. We might lose 7 or 8 cars, and then they'll lose another 7 in the middle part. Then eventually you've got 10 left to go, and it's basically just broken up into the normal session is normally 10. The normal qualifying is normally 10 minutes, but depending on what the timing is, it might be a case of what the first session is 10 minutes long, and the second session is 8 minutes long, and the last session might be 6 minutes long or something like that. So it's just it hasn't all been fully fleshed out just yet. The concept is there. The night itself is a 2-race round. So you'll have the likes of a lot of laps being turned in both series. So the whole point there is to work out the timings for the night, because yes, there might be some 40-lap races, which is going to take the better part of 40 minutes to complete anyway, 2 times. So there's 80-odd minutes with a changeover in between, and then working out how much time to devote to qualifying to make sure it keeps the night rolling and makes everything stay on track for everybody. So that's after Easter, ladies and gentlemen. So we've got a development series round next week, Topor, and then the Supercars round is directly after Easter at Topor, and then there's a little bit of a break, and then in early May it will be time to go racing at Symmons Plains with that important qualifying 3-part qualifying. As we look to Curtis Egmanis, who's the first man out in the shootout, and we have a look at his time to get in. So he was a 110.402 when he entered the shootout, or when he set his qualifying lap. So let's see how he goes. This is the important opening to the lap, getting the line right for turn 1, turn 2 and turn 3. Oh, we've got the wall there as well. That's not a good start to the lap. That's given quite the front left corner of the car a little bit of a lick. Has kept going the right direction though. A little bit taily exiting the hairpin. Not the best start to the lap, but he is the first man out, Rody, so he can only go up.
He is, and importantly, he survived that first chicane, if only just. Now he's going to run through the beach chicane. A lot more composed there. As I said, a little bit of float again there. Nearly put him in the wall, and that unprotected bit of wall on the right-hand side is a pretty dangerous spot to have, where the tyre balls just peel away. But he's got through that, and he's got a second sector on the board, and that will be the benchmark for everyone who will follow him. And he's on his run now down to the last corner, and consequently another lap.
Yep, 20.2 in the first sector, 23.6 in the middle sector, and of course at the moment all purples, because he is the only man that's out there on the circuit. So he is the hare that they're all trying to chase out of the final corner. Good line. Very composed, as you said, Roddy, after that little incident at turn number 1 and 2 and 3. Very composed. And 11.1. So quite substantially off where he was to get into the shootout. That's what happens. You aim to get close to your time. If you can do that, you've done pretty well. And if you can better it, even better.
Absolutely. And importantly, yeah, as we mentioned, he's on the board. So he's very much got the potential to go up from here. At worst, he's going to start 10th, which, to be fair, is the exact position he came in. So he's in a great position where, at worst, he's going to improve.
That's right. Next car out, another one of the Mustangs, Ryan Smith, the Middies entry, the SCS Spud Division number 60, and he was a little bit quicker than Turmo, about a tenth quicker. 110.297 was his best lap. That actually was his best lap, and he put all 3 of his sectors together. Coincidentally, if Egmanis had been able to put all his sectors together, he would have done a 9.9, and he would have been going out third in the shootout based on everybody's times that was there. So that's an interesting little statistic for you. Much better for Smith through the chicane. Left himself a little bit of room on the left-hand side, so taking a little bit of more caution than Egmanis and a bit of a different line. And now he heads up through the gears, bowling up through 5th gear. Now, will he get to 6th before the chicane? Yes, he does. Braking at 50-metre board. 1, 2, 3. Oh, a bit too high there for a bit too long at the third part. That didn't look great from the onboard, but he managed to get the car back down and into turn number 11. And what's the clock say here? Yeah, he's lost a little bit of time there to Igmanis. He's 2 and a bit tenths down and just struggling with the car now with the change of direction here. A little bit taily on the exit there, coming out of the left and right, and now heading up towards the last part of the lap, and now onto the front chute. So not being the best middle sector. His first sector was very good. It was a 19.7, but his middle sector was very average. But for somehow or another, his last sector was very, very good, and he recovers that into a current provisional P1, but only by 7,000ths of a second. But purple in the first sector, purple in the last sector, but the middle sector let him down with that moment in the beach chicane.
Yeah, you're very much with this track. You're just racing between the racetrack is the chicanes. Everywhere else is just the go between to get to them. Because yeah, much better line for the first chicane was up by half a second. Much, or not much, but a worse run through the second chicane, lost 7/10. That's going to be, to a degree, what decides positions in the shootout is how well you handle the chicanes. The rest of the track is just connecting material.
That's right. Luke Speck was the last of the drivers to do a 1 minute 10 in the top 10, so he was a 1:10.279, only fractionally quicker than Ryan Smith. So out third, the SES Shogun Camaro, first of the Camaros in this shootout. Next one out, of course, is going to be Brent Foley, likewise in a Camaro. 3/10 off the current provisional best in Sector 1. We'll get a good angle here from the top cam. 1, 2, 3, and had a bit of hang time and then really clouded the last part of the chicane. Will he have gotten away with that? Is there an invoice to pay for getting a little bit too greedy there, because he was definitely all 4 wheels airborne? And no, surprisingly not. He has, it did register track time, but he locked a brake going into the bottom part of Breaker Street there and very nearly got the fence, so had to recover it. There'll be a little bit of time loss there with being nearly half a second up in that middle sector. Almost did what Ethan Knight did and got very close to the outside on that hairpin. It's so inviting to try and take a bit more speed there, but you can't.
Yeah, no, he's got away with it though, and well, I say he has, but he hasn't. So he's dropped down below these guys. Again, nothing in it, only 11,000ths of a second, and a real tight start to this shootout. It's just over 1/10 of a second that covers all 3 cars so far.
Yeah, that's insane at the moment. That they've all made mistakes, right? So Igmanis made the mistake at turn number 3 when he got the wall. You had Smith that made the mistake in the middle sector. His middle sector was a bit poor, but he managed to recover it. And and Speck was actually looking reasonably good until that mistake at the couple of mistakes in the last part of the lap. That last sector really let him down as we get Brent Foley's lap underway, and he was a 9.945 and the 7th place car in the top 10 after it was done. And look at that, the margins are so ridiculously tight, and it's 0.02 of a second at the first sector split. How's Foley through the chicanes? Very good, excellent. But a little bit of a moment on the last part of the chicane, but the flow and the rhythm was there. Oh, big lock of the brake though. Big lock of the brake. He's gone straight into the tyre barrier. Oh dear. And all that hard work is undone. Got to finish the lap though. If there's still time on the board, got to finish it. Has he stalled the car? I'm not sure what's going on there. Has he potentially stalled the car or killed the engine? Something's... nope, got it going. So just the car stalled there, and stalled for so long that Damon McDonald was coming up behind him on his warm-up lap. So he would have been a bit surprised to see the 074 there. Oh, what a shame for Brent Foley. His first sector was a purple first sector, and oh dear, I don't know what to say. It was ridiculously tight and just got a little bit too greedy. He would have looked at his delta and he would have seen that he was in a very good spot, and probably got a little bit too excited and went a bit long in the braking zone.
Yeah, all I can say for Foley, at the very least, is that is a time on the board. It is 17 seconds clear of what I imagine will be the rest of the field. But if anybody goes a little harder later in the run, which I don't think Damon's going to be, given that he's essentially had his start to the run slightly impeded by the presence of that PBF Camaro. But yeah, if anyone does go harder, he's going to go ahead of them. But yeah, it's a shame, given his pace to get in, that he's going to start, 10th.
Exactly.
More than likely.
Little bit of a lock break going into the hairpin for McDonald. We'll send him a little bit wide. The timing screen says no time. So I got a funny feeling he's just picked up a track infringement at turn number 1 because no time has been registered at sector number 1. Through the chicanes, wallops the tyre barrier on the other side of it, gets away and keeps going. But I fear that you might have just jinxed it there, Rhodey. That we'll get another read on the sector times as we get down to here. Nothing on the board. So I think that this lap is officially a throwaway for Damon McDonald, and we will wait and see what happens when he gets to the line. The shootout giveth, and the shootout potentially taketh away. And this is what it does to you. The line through turn 1 didn't look too bad, but he might have just gone a little bit too far to the right. And the timing screen says, yep, that's exactly what happened, and you don't get a time.
Yeah, so that's a shame. Yeah, probably was just pushing a bit too hard, trying to perhaps make up for what he felt was a bad start to the run. I'm not sure how early he wanted to start that run. Probably slightly impeded, but still, yeah, that's not ideal, is the easiest way to put that.
No, not ideal, but that is the way the cookie crumbles. And we are now halfway through the shootout. 4 drivers have set times. 1 has had a track strike, and the 6th one, which is Luke Newing. So both the SES Shogun entries made the top 10 shootout, and Newing's 109.666 had him at the top of the timing chains for a little while before all the faster times started to come in late in the session, which is kind of to be expected. And both the couple of drivers there, they've left some liberties on the exit of turn number 3, discretion being the better part of valor. And what does that do for the number 17? Oh, times continuing to be very, very tight, heading up through the second into the second half of the shootout. Line through the chicane, absolutely beautiful. Rode it magician-like through the beach chicane. Car very, very settled. Turns in at the back end of the back straight. Very, very nicely indeed. Clock says he's a second to the good. This is looking like it's going to be a lap well and truly entrenched in the 1 minute 10s, possibly a 109. What can he pull out in this last sector? There's been a few drivers that have made a few mistakes here. Leaves some room on the right-hand side. Nicely done. Gets good drive and good rear traction out of the last proper corner on the circuit. That drive to the line puts him into a 10.1 and straight to the top of the pops with 4 drivers to go.
Yep, that is absolutely going to be the benchmark that the guys following will be using. That's getting close to the times they're putting out in qualifying, which is pretty good considering that, at least based on the chat, that at least some of the cars out there, the CRE cars, cited by Scott Murrell, do take a couple of laps to get up to temp. So we're not expecting the CRE cars to be at their ultimate pace. But if the SES guys, or at least Newing, has gotten his car up to the point of being at 100% pace with 1 lap of prep time, he's going to be a real big threat for the guys coming up.
Certainly is. 3 fast drivers and a real wild card in the top 4 to come. One of them is the championship leader, Will Devenish, so he's on the run towards the hairpin at the moment. And for him, a 109.609 was good enough to get into the shootout. It was just fractionally quicker than the number 17 of Luke Newing. He's fractionally down on the number 17 at the first sector split, but that's okay. And very conservative, I will say, through the beach chicane. Loses the right-hand mirror cap, as is sort of to be expected around street circuits. They go flying very, very easily and very, very quickly. He's recovered some of that time in the middle sector, though. It's a purple middle sector for Will Devenish, so this is not over and done with yet. He's got to get a good run through the last corner here and good traction out of the final corner. Nothing left on the table at turn 15, all the way up to the concrete to try and open up the last corner as much as possible. What does the clock say now? It is officially a drag, shortest possible line to the control line. 10, dead, absolutely dead. 0, 0, 0, if you don't mind me saying, and straight to the top. So came on a little bit, so you were right there, Rhodey. The intel you had was absolutely spot on. Those cars take a little bit of time to get up to their operating window, but the car came on at the back end of the lap.
Absolutely, that was, yeah, to perfectly tamed flat. We don't see any flat times too often, but yeah, really eked it out right last second. I would have thought it would have been slower based on the way it was rear-steering itself out of the last corner. I thought he would have given up time to Newing, given how smooth he was, but clearly pushing this a bit harder is what mattered. Now we turn to the number one, the last year's championship winner and the equal championship leader off the points basis in Kurt Stenberg, and he's back again in his chicken car. He's going to win a chicken dinner, still aiming for that win cumulative total over Luke Rosella. But good run for Stenny, and he's up by 2 tenths through that first sector.
Absolutely stellar first sector from Kurt Stenberg, like a metronome. Got really, really good momentum and rhythm through the opening chicane. This is where it all went wrong last year, not in the shootout, but in the race. Very conservative. There's plenty of time on the track width on the table for him there, and that probably is going to pay some dividends down here because it was quite a straight angle down to the next corner. But he did lose a little bit of time in the middle sector. So purple sector 1, then you had a pretty decent sector 2 compared to Devonish, who was only a tenth off. But the balance is swinging back. He's a little bit wide at the final corner. Does he get away with that? Or is that what potentially just puts him onto a provisional second next door to Will Devonish? What can he do when he gets to the line? No!
Oh.
No, indeed. It actually vaulted him to the top of the order. So what looked like a little innocuous mistake potentially at the final corner by just skating a little bit too wide actually wasn't too bad at all. Managed to cut it back down and get to the line and take a few more tenths off of that time. So excellent recovery from Kurt Stenberg, and the only driver that has posted a 26 second, sub 27 second final sector. So that's outstanding.
Oh,
Noah Tara.
And
yeah. Oh, Noah Tara's had a moment. I reckon he's had a game glitch there. That's going to be bad luck for him. But he is. I think he'll have to continue unless he's got a flat there. I was. You called it, Rody. I was watching it on live, and I was looking at thinking, hang on, what's happened here? Are we having a moment with the game lagging out? But no, Noah Tara with some sort of game glitch at the most inopportune time and a flat tyre to boot. And
I have a feeling he will have picked up a track cut through that first chicane.
Yeah, he will, and he's pulling over.
If it was just the game and the spin, he could have pushed around and probably would have definitely still beaten Foley. But yeah, that was
very strange.
Actually, that was over before it began.
Yeah, so here it is. Like you can just see the cars crabbing there, and then all of a sudden, yeah, the whatever game he's had an issue with has then spat him out, and then he's had a problem and disconnected, I think, by the looks of things. So for him, unfortunately, no time recorded.
No, it's just been confirmed, I think, or at least part of it, maybe part of a game glitch, but also from what Will's just said in the chat, we'll disconnect for Noah there.
So that's rather interesting with what's happening there. So just waiting to see the last person, of course, to go out. And there was a couple of people in the shootout. So you had Noah Tara and you had Mitchell Steele Allison. So that's what I was thinking. Maybe that a couple of drivers maybe dropped out of that one.
Good point. Yeah, I've totally forgotten about. He's not even in the server.
Yeah. And
I don't know where he is.
Allison,
I don't think he got into the server.
Yeah, no, he didn't. Well,
he left. There he is. He's left. Yeah.
He actually dropped out. So that's a shootout done. There's no refunds in if you drop out of things like that. So that unfortunately means that we will be going on based on that order that we have on the screen there. So you have this is a little bit unprecedented, but let's cover the top 7 because we have 10. So the top 7 there, as you can see just on your screen. Kurt Stenberg will be on pole from Will Devonish, Luke Newing and Ryan Smith, Curtis Egmanis, Luke Speck and Brenton Foley. And then the corrected order, based on what has happened in the shootout, is you have Damon McDonald, who actually completed a lap, even though he had a track cut. You had Noah Tara, who started a lap, but unfortunately had the wheel disconnect, so he gets the next spot. And then you had Mitchell Steele Allison, who dropped out of the server, didn't set a lap at all, so he's going to be starting plumb last. That's officially how the order is going to be.
I think also simply by virtue and the way you'd actually split that, the way we have done in the past, it works out the exact same result, is that if we were to count back to, which is I think normally done, you count back to qualifying time used to get into the session.
Yes.
Tara did out-qualify Still Allison anyway. So
yes, that's
realistically,
true.
that's how you'd count it. So yeah,
True,
technically, as
true.
neither cars actually set a time, would count back for those two never completed a lap, would count back to qualifying, and Tara out-qualifies Still Allison. So the last three would be McDonald, Tara, Still Allison.
Yes, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you for the correction on that one. Yes, that's something that probably I hadn't anticipated, because of course I don't think we've ever had a scenario like this before, where we've had several drivers drop out at the very end of it. We've had some pretty unusual things happen in ASR, Roadie. You've only got to look as far back as the Hamilton round in the not too recent past to realise that you can have God knows how many people contest the shootout, and God knows how many people get a track cut, and then I think it was 9 Mustangs against 1 Camaro, and then the Camaro beat them all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this is the great thing about shootouts, is you cannot write a script for them. Sometimes it's sometimes there's a really great positive story. Sometimes you end up as a real downer. Sometimes you're just left feeling confused, and this was very, very much one of the latter, where we missed one car, and I was wondering where Still Allison was, and he didn't even start his lap, and then Tara, what happened to Tara and Foley as well. Foley, Damon. In the end, I think we had nearly half the guys in the shootout not get a chance to set a representative lap, which it normally someone gets that level, but it's very rarely that many cars.
No, you're not wrong. So we've got warm-up is officially underway, so there's drivers that are jumping in at the moment to see how everything is going on, and obviously a few drivers are going to jump back in and get themselves ready. Just reading some of the chat at the moment just to see what everybody is up to. Waiting to see if Noah Tara potentially might be even not trusting what his wheel's going to do as well, given it's just disconnected completely at random. And I can completely understand where he's coming from, Rody. You don't want to be in a scenario where you've got a bit of hardware you don't actually trust as far as you can throw it. You don't want to be that person that has a failure at the most inopportune time and ruins someone else's race. So I can completely understand what he's saying.
Yeah, and not to call him out, but he is the reason that we implemented I wouldn't say a rule so much, but as a guideline and as an addendum for stewarding around it. Lucky Locke has historically had a couple of issues with his hardware failing at really bad times. One was in front of the leaders at Simmons Plains. The other one was in a field of cars at Hamilton, in which he basically straight-lined the roundabout and took out Rossi from memory. Neither of which were intentional. It was just things failing, and then I think Simmons was ultimately also a bad rejoin in there as well. But there is now an initial sort of guideline in ASR, and something that probably Noah has considered in making the decision, that if you do join a race, or you resume in a race knowing that you've got iffy hardware and it causes a problem, you will be the one responsible for that.
Yeah,
even if it was a complete accident.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's one of those things, because he's not the only one that's sort of fallen foul of that rule in the past. It's not so much a rule, so to speak. It is now, but back in the day, there were a few drivers, and I'm not going to single out by mentioning any names, but you have a disconnect going down the thing, and rather than and knowing that you had some sort of a problem, you've continued on and you end up hitting another car. And it's those sorts of things where you've got to exercise the caution. It's no different to the rollover rule, which of course is if you have a rollover in a game for whatever reason, you are obligated to pit for damage and repairs straight away as early as possible if you are going to continue.
Yeah, that one not unlike this rule, to be fair. That one's not one that comes up a whole lot often, to be fair. The last time it's definitely happened since the last time I remember it being a feature or a point of contention for people was 2019. But it's definitely happened since then, but it's happened so rarely, generally speaking, because, well, it's only really here that you roll cars, and here's a good example of something that I will note because it took me out of the first race last week. If you do roll your car through the chicane, it's just the nature of the track. It's something that we have tried to figure out. But one of just those AMS things. If you roll a car here, when it resets you, it puts your wheels below the ground. Physics gets real unhappy that your suspension is stretched beyond its normal limits, and your game slows to 1 frame a second, and you're out of the race.
Yeah, it happened to me actually as well. So it's in race number 2 last week. So it's not a pleasant thing, and yeah, you just got to get the wall at the wrong angle or roll the car at the wrong angle, and that's the end of it. And well, if you're Ryan Smith, they've got on the screen there, you go nose first to the tyre barrier and you get collected by Damon McDonald. So yeah, one of those little things. Not too far away now from getting ready to go into race trim, and a few last drivers making a few last minute attempts to restart their cars and get going, and then we'll be on our way. So based on what we are observing here, we of the impression Noah Tara will not start this race because of the wheel disconnect. We also don't have a Ben Hall. He seems to have wandered off somewhere. So.
Yeah, he does. I wouldn't say he does a good job of it, but he has unfortunately put himself in position before he turned up for races, and then something else IRL has summoned his attention, and I think he was supposed to race with us for the last social series round, but basically I think when AWOL by the time qualifying started didn't come back till after race would have been race 4.
That's it.
So hopefully we see Ben back, but for now we've gained a Phil Boak in his place.
That's right, we have. So bolsters the order by a little bit, and 17 runners is what we believe we will start with. So Noah Tara will be missing from 9th on the grid, and we will be missing a Ben Hall from down the back, but in that same spot it will be Phil Boak, and everybody that is from 10th on down will gain a spot by virtue of that little bit of a gap that will be in the grid. So we've had larger fields for Supercars here before at the Gold Coast. It is a bit of a smaller field this time around. A lot of people look at it a couple of different ways. It's like the old glass half full and glass half empty sort of scenario, Rhodey, where a few people look at it and say, yeah, look, a few less cars is not a bad thing because, you know, less possibility of some accidents and things like that. But then the other approach is, well, it is Gold Coast after all.
Absolutely, yeah. Something we'll touch on as well as we get started is there is one new livery for the grid tonight, which we will see. It'll be very easy to tell. It's very distinctly coloured compared to the rest of the cars, but I will now go through that grid, and starting from pole is Kurt Stenberg in the number 1 with the Kingsley's Chickens backing again. He's, as I said, going for that outright win record against Luke Rosella. Hopefully he can get there tonight. Second is Will Devonish, the lead series engineering Mustang. He's done a pretty good run as well to get to the front row with Luke Newing in third. Bit of a surprise package from that shootout. Luke Newing, great run in the SES Shogun number 17. Fourth is Ryan Smith, SES Spud Division number 62. There's 2 of those cars in the grid tonight. Fifth is Curtis Egmanis, Series Engineering number 51. So that's the second of those 2 cars in the top 5. Sixth is Luke Speck, the other SES Shogun Camaro. So that's those 2 in the top 6. With Brenton Foley in 7th, the lead of the PBF Brand Engineering Camaros. 8th is Dan McDonald. This is the ultimate livery I was talking about, running the Monster Gold car painted by Daniel Cox Designs for Q Racing. 9th is Mitchell Steele Allison, making his debut this year for PBF by SES, the number 24. With Jake Palfrey filling in for Brandon Dostal tonight in the Q Racing by SES number 76. 11th is Darren Longman. He's in his car tonight rather than having Ben Hall fill in for him. So he's in the Nordic Racing number 31. With Cam Rutledge in 12th for Sierra Anson Motorsport. 13th is Steve Warwick. I believe he's also turning up for the first time tonight. Actually, no, I think he was at round 1, but Princeton PV Blackshaw's number 63 either way. 14th is Daniel Cox in that very colourful kamikaze car for Sierra Anson Motorsport, number 94. 15th is Ethan Knight, the Lipke Racing by ACS number 77. With Phil Boak turning up very last minute, popping into 16th place, so a bit of a swap with him and Lockie Lock, but that should be fine given they're at the back. And at the back is Lockie Lock for Sierra Amped Up Racing. Actually, the only one of these cars on the grid tonight with Noah out for at least race 1.
Yeah, certainly right there. Just waiting for everybody to get themselves together. We are set for race 3 of the championship, the first instalment of the Gold Coast 200. Stenberg on pole, converts beautifully from the line, leaves the rest of the field, gets quite a healthy margin on all the field at the end of the day, heading down toward the chute to turn number 1. It's a bit of a funnel, this corner. You've got to be very careful how this all feeds in. Stenberg's through pretty cleanly. Foley from 7th place has maintained where he started. He's going to get a couple of spots on those 2 cars that are in the fence. Smith, and was that Egmanis who was in the fence there as well, because there's now a bit of a sandwich going on back there getting into turn number 4, the hairpin. Egmanis has lost a few spots here as the field gets going on. What happened at the start there, we need to find out, because it looks like there might have been a little bit of contact scenario, I think, here down to turn number 1. Did somebody get squeezed, or was there a bit of cutting at the chicane? Egmanis went through, and Egmanis into the wall, pinballed into Ryan Smith.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think they both could have made it through there perfectly fine. I think it was just Ryan probably hugging a little bit tight to Termo, expecting that Termo would get run through perfectly fine. Termo just got a wobble out of nowhere, caught the wall and pinged back into Smith there. So nobody was at fault for that. I think it was a racing incident, but good lesson for the both. I think just to be a bit more cautious. It is lap 1 of a 36-lap race. You don't want to write it off this early.
No, certainly not. Mitchell Steele-Allison, good start for him. 4 spots gained. Foley, 3 spots gained. He might be 5 spots gained for Steele-Allison very shortly, getting quite menacing on the back of the 074 PBF Race Engineering Camaro as they go into the first couple of corners on lap number 2. 34-lap race, so there is quite a fair bit of this one to go. Rest of the field coming through the corner here. Cam Rutledge, Cam looking down the inside of Steve Warwick. A little bit of a coming together there. Nothing untoward. I think they'll be okay with that. Foley still hanging on here over Steele-Allison. This is starting to become a little bit of an interesting battle. Foley's tyres maybe starting a little bit lower, needing to come up to temperature a bit. Tyres will be a talking point in this race, because there are pit stops required, and you've got to use both compounds. And obviously the rule for a while has been about what tyres you qualify on, and that means you have to start on them and so on and so forth. But the real question's going to be at what time is there a crossover. You can see here there's 2 different compound colours on these 2 cars we're watching here. Foley on the yellow sidewall tyres, and you've got Steele-Allison on the white.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And if I remember correctly, I can tell you which one was on which of the 2. But I think what we're seeing just from the pace difference here is that it leads me to believe that Steele-Allison is on the soft tyre. The other thing that I think leads into as well is that, not that Foley wouldn't feel aggrieved by the way that shootout ran, but Steele-Allison didn't even have a chance to show what his pace was like. I think it's probably a little bit of fire underneath him, and he's going to be hustling a little bit. The advantage here, at least, is that he's racing a teammate, or an indirect teammate, but they are both under the PBF wider banner. So they'll play it fairly smart. They've got a bit of a gap through the car in front. Luke Ewing is probably takes all kinds of line through the chicane there.
Had a bit of a moment there. This might be the opportunity for Steele-Allison. If he can get there, Foley's a bit deep on the brakes and has the preferred line. So the Camaro holds on for a little while. Starting to be a little bit of a cork here, because you've got Speck behind him, and then you've got Damon McDonald in the Monster Ranch alternate livery there as well. Car 59. He's starting to look a bit interested in the back of the second of the SES Shogun Camaros. A little bit of a bump there for Steele-Allison. Foley went a bit wide at the final corner, and that allows a little bit of overlap here. But now Steele-Allison hasn't got the draft, so he's got to tuck back in behind the rear wing of the Camaro. Now he's going to swing out here, super close to the wall there. Loses the mirror cap in the process. Foley, the veteran, says, "No way, Jose."
Yeah, as one of the owners of the team, I'm getting a little bit stressed watching these 2 battle, because they are teammates. That they're very much at risk of putting themselves in the fence. I think that was probably Steele-Allison, maybe a slightly bad run of the hairpin, but probably also a smart call. If he'd got that, it would have been considered perhaps a bump and run to set that one up. But yeah, unless Foley can really lock in and get a good run here, he is very much backing Steele-Allison into Speck, into McDonald, ultimately into Palfrey, who's back there now in 8th. He's joining on to this train as well.
No, you're right. It's starting to become a little bit interesting here. It's a 4-car train, effectively. At the minute, Palfrey won't be too far from catching up. Elsewhere in the race, it looks like Smith and Egmanis have both toured the lane for a bit of damage, and Phil Boat gone a lap down. Not sure what happened to him in the last little bit. But yeah, he's had a bit of a shocker. But of course, no practice for the veteran aboard the 046. And we go back to, I don't know, we're now on lap 4, so this is round 4 of this battle here. Foley got all the right dance moves at the moment, the right defensive moves, and still holding on here. And this is going to be important because of that tyre sort of strategy that has to happen here. Right, still Allison down the inside. This should be the move done. And it is.
Yeah.
Oh, not quite. No,
it's not.
We say that.
Looped on the curb.
He has. He's looped it on the curb. Or did he catch that little bit of the concrete that's just sticking out there at the moment? So he's. It's not one of those things that maybe he just got hung up on the curb, got a little bit too excited, and round he goes. So not the best part of his night so far. Let's see if we can get another bit of a look at this as he comes into the chicane. Let's go on board with the roof cam and see if he actually manages to catch the inside here. Did he get it all curb? Yeah, it was all curb. All 100% curb.
Right at the end, when he was already basically around it, he snagged the wall, which really dragged swung the car around the last bit. But yeah, that was just curb and it just getting a bit too greedy on the tyre. So that's a shame, and that's dropped him. Well, it's dropped him 10 spots pretty much.
And let's Foley off the hook. For a little bit anyway.
It does, and he's now quote battling with Ryan Smith, who's trying to get his lap back.
Yeah, well, Ryan Smith, of course, is entitled to get his lap back. The leaders have actually just lapped Curtis Igmanis as well, who's struggling down in 15th at the moment. He's now gone a lap down. Smith's gone a lap down. Boak's gone a lap down. But you're right, Smith is actually entitled to get his lap back if he can afford to do so. He's got to be fast enough, though. He's actually on track at the moment behind Steele Allison after that recovery. Now, we did say they have been through the lane. They have, of course, that means they've cleared a mandatory stop scenario. The real question is the hard tyres will get this far. They will get all the way from now until the end of the race, but they're going to be pretty badly worn by the time they get there, as we check in with our Pallet Control Solutions race facts. 15 turns and 34 laps on the board. We've heard some early running, of course, that the hard tyre will do about 30 laps quite comfortably, but you probably don't want to be on it for 30 laps unless you have absolutely zero choice, as those three at the bottom of your timing graphic happen to be. You've got to use both compounds in each race tonight, and then of course the safety car probability is high, and the tyres and when is the most correct time to get off one compound and onto the other.
Absolutely. Just looking at the field and looking at already the amount of mirrors being bowled off as they clip tyre barriers and clip Armco barriers, and it's going to be a long race for those mirror covers. I'm interested to count of how many are left at the end of race 1.
Well, the hard part's going to be looking at all the cars and working out which ones that have black mirror caps right now actually had something there to start with.
Very, very good point. Yeah, there are a few guys running black mirror caps, and there's a yellow down at the last corner, which I think Spec, he's been in the fence because he's dropped a couple of spots.
Yeah, so there's a couple. There was a little yellow in the back sector as well. I didn't quite see what happened there. So Luke Spec, who was actually was ahead of Darren Logman. He was up in 5th place behind Brenton Foley. Yes, he's had a bit of a moment, and that would have been what is now where he is on the timing. That would have been the very brief yellow we saw on screen with Steve Warwick approaching the beach chicane. So he's had a bit of a moment on this lap, and yeah, minute 16.9, and has dropped a couple of spots in the process. So he continues on. So it's the SCS Shogun drivers, instead of being 5th and 3rd, are now 7th and 3rd. Luke Ewing actually is doing a fairly decent job at the moment in the Adair Ice Coffee Machine, although he's had a bit of a moment coming out of the beach chicane. He's got eyesight on the leaders at the moment, so doing a good job to hang in here at the moment. He did own the fastest lap of the race for a little while, but that has been taken off him by Will Devonish at a 9.967, and he's all over the back of the Kingsley's Chicken entry of Kurt Stenberg. So what can Ewing do here, Ray? This is the $64,000 question. If the guys that are out in front of him, they're only a couple seconds up the road, but they continue to fight like this. Does he just continue to chip away? Has he just got to continue to chip away and just keep that margin where it is, and then maybe think about something in the pit stop strategy. He's on the on the white side, yellow side, so the white sidewall tyres. Devonish, and Stenberg, I'm just trying to get a bit of a visual on what they're on.
They're also running the white sidewall, so they're on the same starting tyre. I think for Ewing, he's in a good spot where he is, and I think what we've noticed already with this lead pack is they're concertina, because what happens is they'll close up to each other, and then the guy in front will be a little bit hurried and make a mistake through the beach chicanes, but also, or one of the chicanes, but also cars in second and third will make a mistake because they've right up the chuff of the car in front of them and lose their sighting and make a mess of the chicane. So they're spaced out again. But then they also then it takes inevitably Kurt to make a small error, but everybody else then gets a better run through the chicane, so they catch back up to them again. I think he's in a good spot to, if he's got a strategy in mind, and his teammate being Specky, I imagine they've got a strategy in mind. He should need to focus on driving to that, I think, because the way those two are racing in front, there's a good chance that if they're going to keep battling like this, they might forget where they are within the race as a whole. They might go too long, they might go too short, they might stuff their own strategy somewhere along the line. If Ewing's in a position where they might not think about him when it matters, they might not remember that there's a third car in this race.
Yeah.
So if he can just float here, keep in touch with them, pull off his own strategy, and then, you know, if he needs to get the elbows out at the back end of this race, I think that's probably his best call right now.
Yeah, I think so. I like your call on that one. I think that if these two continue just to fight and to go into their own battle between themselves, they'll forget about the number 13 that's behind them, and then it'll be a matter of, you know, an undercut or an overcut potentially could pull the trigger here, and then, you know, jump ahead of these guys. You know, as we said, it's going to be about that tyre crossover point. For the soft tyre versus the hard tyre, when is the right opportunity to go to get changed onto that tyre, and, you know, can you take advantage of it when that happens? And Ewing's in that position where he can take advantage of it. You know, if these two decide to go an extra lap or two, you know, all it takes is for a little bit of clear track, drop into the right part on the circuit, get a lap or two in, and you could jump out and be ahead of these guys and have a race victory to your name. So that'll be interesting just to wait and see how that one all unfolds, as the race leaders now are working on lap 11. Good time so far for them. They've been getting along all right. You can see Igmanis just in the back of the shot there. He is, of course, a lap down. Brent Foley some 11 seconds off the back of Luke Ewing. And he's managed to put some distance between himself and Damon McDonald. Luke Speck's got Palfrey for company here as well, so there must be some good coaching on there inside the SES stable, because he's found the rear bar of the second of the SES Shogun machines and is sticking to him pretty well.
He was, yeah. I did catch them a little earlier going on the front straight. I believe the positions were actually reversed at one point. I believe, and this will be Speck recovering back through the field after it snagged the wall that they just went past the inside of that wall, which is the same thing guys were doing last year, just not realising the rear haunches of this car are a little wider than the Super 2 machinery or not just Super 2, but the Gen 2 machinery that they were used to. So that's him working over the back of the field. But Palfrey's doing a good job of plugging along. He's been wanting to get back into driving these cars again. He did a couple of wild cards last year, and he's wanting to get back into do a couple more wild cards this year. The difference is, unlike last year, unlike parts of last year, he is now on a wheelie. Was doing parts of it, which I think in memory I've included Bathurst on a controller. Not quite so strong on pace there, but now that he's got the wheel under him and he's sort of got himself going. I mean, that run through the chicane wasn't great, but he's got himself in a good little head of steam here. He's just quietly plodding along. He's pretty safe spot at the moment. 6th, he's just behind Speck, but he's far enough behind that he can still see where he needs to be on track. And he's got about 4 seconds back to Lognan, who I think is probably a bit more concerned about the fact that Warwick's within about 4 seconds of him rather than Palfrey up the road. So good little quiet spot for him to run, and, you know, we'll see where things shake out for him.
At a moment for Ryan Smith, just realised he's retired from this race and went into the same part of the circuit that we saw during practice, which is the final corner, turn 15, into the tyre barrier there, and looks like the engine has given up the ghost as a result of that. So he's the first retiree from this race after was it there about 12, 11 laps or so, and he'll start from the back for race number 2. Gone into a bit of a quiet sort of a feel at the moment. This race, there's plenty. There's not a huge amount going on, unless you want your Phil Boken, you're doing bicycle movements through the beach chicane.
Yeah, to a degree, it's done. It's one of those things where I think a lot of the drivers, perhaps, I wouldn't say they wanted the Dev Series experience, but they'll probably be hoping something a lot more along those lines. Whereas a lot of the guys in Dev Series last week, this is the sort of racing we were hoping to have.
Another one's about to retire from this one as well. Steve Warwick with an engine failure. Just saw flames belching from the back of the Renstall PBF number 63. That's at the hairpin, and he's out of this one as well. So I'd say it's probably the old money shift there. Probably maybe one gear too low going through one of the turns, or came down one too many gears. So in quick succession, a Camaro and a Mustang are out of this race. That elevates a few drivers.
Yeah, just run into the first chicane. It wasn't an obvious screamer. It must have just peaked above. Was popping 7,500 on the way down, which is getting pretty close to what the engine wants to push to, and maybe he was just pushing a bit too hard up until this point, and that was just the last bit of wear that got him. Either way, though, that's hand grenade engine down at the first chicane. So if you want some memorabilia bits, that's a good place to find him.
Yep, certainly is. That elevated Ethan Knight all but briefly to 11th place, but he gave up the position to Lockie Lock quite easily at the end of the day. Oh, and that's the reason why he's coming to pit lane. And so too's Rutledge. Okay, so there's a little bit of pit stop activity here. So these are drivers that would have been on the soft tyre, I would have imagined, and started on the soft and have now making their way in. So too Darren Lognan is another one that's come in fairly early. So this is similar to the amount of laps that we saw drivers in the development series get out of the soft tyre.
Yes.
So this is the crossover for them. And they're leaving the lane fairly shortly, and that does release a few other drivers to go through in a bit of a fast pace. So Lognan leaving the lane with Rutledge directly behind him, and then you have a third of those cars that came in for a stop. Was oh dear! Yeah, I was actually just keeping an eye on some things there. It was Igmanis with a right royal cameo at turn number 1, 2 and 3 again. Very nearly upset Lognan in the process. That's very, very weird sort of a re-entry. Let's have a look at this on the Paint Doctor replay. Never quite seen this before. So Lognan leaving, and here comes the much faster car. Now Lognan should have just put his foot down there and got going, and then Igmanis with his moment, and second time in this race has found the wall at turn 3, and that very nearly could have been an aeroplane crash there.
Yeah, I think that was generally a bit of indecision from, I think, perhaps both of them, as to unsure what the other car was quite going to do. Yeah, if Lawton had pinned the firewall and gotten out of there, he probably would have gotten out there before Turbo got to him. Either that, the other option was, although it's not advised, the car up behind you, just to jag the brakes, just to make sure that Igmanis got through before he did, because Igmanis very much felt like he had to leave room for Lognan, and that's not really a chicane. You want to leave room for another car through, and that's would have been what ultimately put him into the fence. The other thing to note, as we've just seen, the leaders into the lane as well, yes. All three of them are coming at the same time.
Yep. So the white side soft wall tyre is the soft, and the yellow sidewall marked tyre is the hard. So these drivers were all on the soft tyre. They've all come in, and that'll be the interesting bit now to see what's going on there. So that leaves Brenton Foley in the lead of this race. Now, he was on the yellow sidewall tyre, so he was on the hard to start with. So he's going to have a lighter car and a faster car on the softer tyre toward the end of this race. And look who's found him again. It's Mitchell Steele-Allison, although this time Steele-Allison is a lap down, and he has been through the lane already, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but he's down the order, so I would say he probably has.
I'm not sure on that, just as of yet. The easy way to tell, actually, would be what tyres he's running.
Yes, that's right.
Because he would have started on, or we noted he started on the softs.
Yeah, he's on the hards now.
And he is on the hard, so he has been through the lane. So you're losing a bit under a lap, so he's not in an equivalent position. He is still going to have a few slots to make up as Vote peels in as well. But yeah, Foley will stick it out, as will Lockie Lock. He started on the hards as well, which explains his qualifying position of 17th. He very much committed to running the hards and sacrificing qualifying to make for a race strat. So there are a couple of guys to keep an eye on, as well as the guys that pitted real early. So Ryan Smith was one on hards, unfortunately he's now out. I believe Ignitus is also running hard tyres as well.
Yeah.
They've already been to the lane though, so it's a bit of a different position for them. But for the lead guys, we're going to see where they play out, because Foley's going to go to probably, well, do the inverse. He's going to go to probably about, he wants to get on the tyres as soon as possible. We probably go, I'd say 24. He probably want to get 10 laps out of the softs. Probably something similar out of Locky Lock.
I'll tell you what, there was a bit of a moment there at the chicane, because Cox has not stopped yet, and he was in a battle for position effectively with Devonish and Stenberg, and a little bit of parachuting on, I guess, or blocking on the front straight there, but he was allowed to do it because didn't have to give the position up. Gave the advantage to Will Devonish, who managed to get past Kurt Stenberg going into turn number 1. So Stenberg lost the lead. Now looks down the inside here, getting really tight.
Well.
Yep, yellow's up as well and had to bail out of it. And Stenberg looking racy, but for the first time in this race, Stenberg has lost the. This is for the effective race lead. Foley is the leader from Lock and Cox, but this is the effective lead battle right here. And Ewing has definitely closed the margin down in all of this as well.
Actually, it's worth noting as well. Actually, Cox is actually there. He is there for position, but he's also one of the runners on hard tyres, so he'll be out for another probably 10 laps or so as well. So
yeah, that's right.
He will be a clear and present danger to quite a book title, but he's not going away from this battle. He might decide to let Will through to a degree, but otherwise, like, these are for position. The more he holds these guys up, the better chance he has of perhaps getting some spots at the other end of this race.
Well, he's defending like his life depended on it at the moment, so that's the surprise for me, but that's going to be to the disadvantage of the cross stablemate car, because Devonish has now got Stenberg alongside. This is the game of chicken. You've got to be careful coming up here. Whoever's ahead has to really be the one to commit, and you've got to have a bit of common sense to get through this beach chicane, because you can't do it side by side, and Stenberg knew that and pulled back in pretty quickly because he didn't want to risk going and burning a couple of those valuable track cuts that you might need somewhere along the line in this race should anything not go to plan. Cox is really taking the defensive line here. This is he's perfectly entitled to do this. This is the thing. He is not the effective race lead, but this is for position. So, you know, this is a case of, you know what, to hell with it. I'm going to try and help some of my teammates potentially here. He's gone wide at the final corner. That's now going to let Devonish get underneath. But Stenberg now has to commit pretty quickly, I would think, to passing the number 94 in the next few seconds or so, or risk being in a situation of losing touch with Will Devonish. So turn 3 coming up, down the head, turn 4, got to get down the inside now, does get down the inside now, gets it done.
Oh, he's actually run wide, so that's letting you.
Yeah, worse for Cox.
Tires,
yeah, worse for Cox. He got the tyres as well, and he's fortunately there was enough of a gap behind him. He was able to grab reverse pretty quickly and get going. McDonald is still a better part of 10 or 12 seconds down the order. Very brief yellow flag in the back speech chicane.
Is it dead? Oh, Ethan Knight.
Yeah, Ethan Knight.
Chicane, a mistake somewhere in that chicane because he's very slow.
Oh, Stenberg, straight on.
Stenberg's gone deep.
Yeah, and so too as Ethan Knight. So Stenberg with a locked brake there at the end of the back straight. That lets Ewing through, and you had Ethan Knight down the escape road at turn 11. And I don't know what's happened to him, if he's managed to get going or not. I'm wondering if he had no, he hasn't, and he's retired as well. So some terminal damage for the SES Luke McHugh Racing number 77. So third car out of this race. Stenberg now down to P3. And I'll tell you what, that was a rather interesting couple of laps with Cox being the roadblock, albeit legally, and Stenberg making the mistake at turn 11, and very rare mistake.
Yeah, I think the car in the best spot there, and I was going to flip on it for a second when Devonish got through and had a pretty clear margin to work with. Ultimately, still the car in the best spot there was Ewing. He was at the back where if anything happened between the lead two cars and Cox, that he would have him in a position to benefit from it. In the end, he was far enough back from Stenberg that Stenberg had his accident and Ewing saw it and was able to avoid it. So he's now tucked into about a second and change back from Devonish, as they're now both catching up on Locky Lock. Locky Lock not so much falling as hard as Cox was. But even then, he's going to be out for probably another less than the 4 laps. Same thing. Only difference is I mean, they're still teammates. They're still adjacent teammates. He might not play. He might not necessarily play as nicely. He might play harder. We don't know yet. But that's going to be the deciding factor. And whether there's a different sense of urgency amongst the team as a whole, given that the car behind is not Stenberg, and instead Ewing, whether they feel that maybe he's less of a threat. But I think at this point, suggesting that Ewing is less of a threat is a dangerous thing to think.
Yeah, I think so. Kurt Stenberg, just noticing off camera, made an almost Ryan Smith-like mistake at the final corner. Actually got away with it, not as bad. It didn't hit the wall as hard as Smith, but that's dropped him further behind Devonish and Ewing as well. As you see, Devonish now down the inside of Lockie Lock. That is officially for position. Lock and Foley, the only two cars yet to stop. Well, Foley is officially in the lane now.
Yep.
He will move on to the soft tyre. So that's something now to be mindful of. He doesn't probably have to put a huge amount of fuel in. He's just reaching his pit bay now, right as Will Devonish is coming round the final corner. Now, of course, given that this is a split tyre compound round, of course, every race will be checked by the stewards after racing has concluded to make sure everybody has complied with the rules. Foley leaving the lane now. And Devonish is out through turn 1. Ewing had to cut the chicane at turn 2. Foley's going to get out just behind Kurt Stenberg, who's on the hard tyre, so this will be an interesting battle to watch. New soft tyre, lighter car, versus hard tyres that have done about 9 laps now, and slightly wounded number 1 Camaro, as it just lost its other mirror cap. And Foley will be on a charge. He probably won't charge for the top 2, but is definitely looking good here for a podium. Oops, a little bit of a moment in the chicane.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's about either of them are playing.
Oop, I think might have lost Rody there very briefly for a second. Not something have a net. Nope, got him back.
Yep. Yeah, I was saying, he just about pulled that up. Yeah, Kurt's not going to make it too easy for him, because he knows the more he can make Foley work for this now, the better chance he's got if the tyres start to go. But yeah, not about either of these guys are planning on having. I think counterpoint is, as we mentioned, he could potentially go and have a swing at actually Lock's corner of the lane. So he's actually fighting now for 3rd position with
Brenton Foley. Effectively, this is for 3rd place. And easy done at the end of the day for Brenton Foley. Got it done down the front straight. Just had so much more traction with the softer tyre. Not much that Stenberg could have done about it. And now the PBF 074 is effectively released. He has got 9 laps to try and reel in the 10-second or so deficit to Luke Ewing. That is ahead. And let's see what his lap times happen to be. So Devonish's last lap time around was a 10.6. Ewing was awarded a track strike. And Foley's last time around was just his out lap. So we're waiting to see what his time across the line was this time. So we'll get a read on the leaders as they all come through. There is Foley going through the bottom part of the chicane. Here is Will Devonish. And for him, 10.3. across the line, so that's fairly good for him. Ewing 10.2 across the line there, and Foley coming to the line right about now, and his time is a 10.4, having cleared Stenberg in the traffic. So let's wait and see if those times improve over the next couple of laps or so. But it's going to be a stretch from here to really threaten Devonish and Ewing. He needs a safety car really to close that margin up, and then from there it could be on.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a bit of work to do. Yeah, I think realistically at this point, Ewing is definitely a potential catch, but it really needs the tyres to fall off a little harder than they currently are. The hards are they're not quick. They are pretty consistent tyres. So I think what's helping also the pair of them up front is that they are now a 3-second apart. That was the sentence. They are now 3 seconds apart from each other, so it means they can run their own little quiet race. They can run their optimum lines. They're not having to compromise for the cars around them, or for each other at least. There is still the argument of lap traffic, of which I don't think they're have too much to worry about. No, they've got probably about a fifth, a quarter of the track. The next car ahead of them is Cam Rutledge, but he's quite a way around the track. He's just come out of the big chicane now. So I don't think traffic's going to be a concern for these leaders, but yeah, we'll see how things go.
Certainly will. Damon McDonald has found himself attached to a bumper of some unfamiliar cars at the moment. He's now having a go at Kurt Stenberg, and well, through quite easily at the end of the day. Now he's gained an advantage there by making a pass and cutting the chicane. He has to give it up, and he does. He knows the rules. So that was a good move at the end of the day, but couldn't pull it up for the chicane, and you've left the track and gained an advantage by doing so. So he'll have to try that all again. And Luke Speck is the car in the back, a shot behind them. And he did an 11.5 last time around compared to Stenberg's 12.7. So I would say that Speck is maybe not too far away from joining this little fight for 4th and 5th. And Stenberg's going to have his work cut out for him in this one to hold on to what is at the moment 4th place. The next car, of course, is McDonald. Behind him is Speck. Palfrey's done a good job. Kept his nose clean for most of this, and he's in 7th place. So that'd be nice for Brandon Dostal to see this car up in a decent finishing position. Put some word through as well that Steele Allison's retired with some force feedback issues, so he obviously had that little crash that we saw at the beginning of the race, and it's just been playing up, so he's decided not to contest the further amount of the race. And McDonald gets a little bit of a moment there with Stenberg. Got up side by side, but look what that did. That just closed that margin down, and Speck gained an enormous amount of time because they were both slow against each other through the chicane, trying to give each other room, and that margin they had over the number 13 is gone.
Yeah, so, that's just another drive through for Phil Boak there. He's been collecting a few of those so far in race 1. But yeah, McDonald and Speck, I don't know what it is for Kurt. It's a rare position for Kurt to be in, at least within ASR, where he's having to play the defensive game, where he's basically having to put out the biggest parachute he can to stop him falling too much further down in positions. Normally he's the one charging through, or at least holding station at various points. It's very rare that he's having to play defensively like this, especially over what for him is relatively lowly positions of 4th and 5th and 6th. But yeah, I don't know, maybe the setup's gone the wrong direction for Kurt, or just he was reliant on tyre life, and he was basically a dice roll as to whether he'd be able to sort of one-shot run at it. But yeah, Specs not quite as strong as McDonald at this point in the race. They are all throwing hard tyres, just fresher hards, or just a better behaving car at this point for the two around him. But third time now for McDonald to get past the run, and this time he's managed to hold it.
Yep, got it done, and Stenberg might lose a further spot here in the next few minutes or so. Just having a bit of a view on board as well, I've noticed he is driving partially right hand down. It's not significant, but around here it is a distraction, and you know that might be part of the reason why his times have dropped off a little bit. He has managing some damage from probably an incident or so somewhere. It might have been that moment at the final corner that I called a little bit earlier. That has put the number 1 on the back foot here. So just about bringing it home. You know, we keep talking about some of this as well. You know, you don't want to DNF from some of these races. You have got your drop round, but you don't deliberately want to DNF and then say, well, that's my drop round, and then find out you have a really bad round a bit later on because you know you've thrown away valuable points. So you've got to bank every point that you can, and then you worry about your drop rounds and all that sort of stuff a little bit later on in the year. So that elevates Damon McDonald to 4th place, and well, Rody, another bloke. This one is something that we touched on at Sydney Motorsport Park, and we thought might have been it was a bit of a wake-up call in the off-season, because McDonald had got quite quick in iRacing, and it vaulted up the order quite chronically. And everybody was throwing around the P word pretty quickly, but he's in both series anyway, so it really didn't matter. He has gone on to dominate a couple of races in the development series, and he's had a few mistakes and things along the way. Hadn't been the same in the supercars, like Sydney Motorsport Park was a case of, is someone having a lend of us here? But now we're actually starting to see that he might not be on the front running pace at the moment, but it's slowly starting to come to him. Racecraft is still there. And it's starting to improve, but maybe this is the round that kickstarts his campaign.
Yeah, it's been a progressive improvement for him. His first race at S&P finished 12th. Second race he was 6th, so that was more of an indication of where we're expecting him to be. Just a little yellow battle for Philbrook entering the lane again, just serving another drive-through. Yeah, just while they've been plodding along, trying to get the pace, and I suppose I think one of the common themes for the guys that have driven, especially for the only ones that have driven Gen 2, comes from Gen 3, is the Gen 2, I suppose, feels the way you feel a supercar should drive from your mental image of how a supercar drives, given that none of us have actually driven a supercar. The Gen 3, I mean, it's a different car. It's supposed to feel like a different car, but we're all still, we're creatures of habit. Most of us in Melbourne still call, or some of us still call Southern Cross Spencer Street. We're still very, our mind's eye of what a supercar drives like is still a lot closer to, what was, you can arguably go back to, I think Car of the Future is probably where the current idea of the physics actually starts, but that's all the way back in 2012. You go back, it's nearly a 10-year period from the start of Car of the Future all the way through to the end of Gen 2. That's the idea people have in their heads for a supercar. So if that's what you've become used to, and I'm making this point as to, if this is what they thought Damon would be quick in, it'll be quick in cars that drive the way a supercars drive, or the way a Gen 2 supercar drives, that would explain the relative lack of pace early on, I say early on, at round 1, in this series. But from what I understand, he is pretty good at adapting to different cars, and that does help a lot. If you can be a one-trick pony in a series that matters, for example, he'd admit it himself, Dane's found more of a pace in what was the Gen 2 physics set than what he's found here. That's sort of his one trick. Similar thing, not similar thing, for Damon, I don't think he's a one trick. Boki's collecting at this point. I think, he's managed to adapt himself to these cars. Be interesting to see if he's done it early enough, but also I don't think he's quite there yet. He's sitting there fourth, he's pulling away from Stenberg, who's having a rough run of it. He is still 6 seconds back to Foley, although he is, I think, catching Foley at this point. He is. And he is still best part of half a minute back from the lead of this race. And ideally that's where he'd want to be, because his expectation, or not his expectation, but it'd be nice to have somebody else, not that there isn't already, there are 2 or 3 other guys that can, but the more the merrier that can have a crack at Will Devonish and keep this total fight fun, the better.
Yes, that's right. Well, Speck has now gone past Kurt Stenberg on the last tour as well. Actually managed to pass it down the front straight, and there was a little bit of an exchange as they came out of the hairpin that we're approaching now. But that's a done and dusted move for position now, and Speck's not pulling away at any great rate, but he has got the passing move done. He'll probably just edge away over the next the closing laps or so of this one. Foley hasn't really been able to make much of an impression on the top 2.
Hang on. No, top 1. He's second now.
He's second now. Yes, you're right.
Where's Newing's in 7th?
Yeah, so something's happened to Luke Newing. That's
he's in the lane.
Yeah, so that's a rather interesting scenario. It's a rather interesting observation there, Rhodey. And has he indeed been in the lane? That's the question I want to see. And we have a look at that, and the answer to that, I would say, is probably not. I think he had a very poor last sector on the last tour, so something happened to Luke Newing, and we're going to have to go back and see if we can try and figure out what actually happened here. He actually did come into he came into the lane.
He came into the lane. I'm just trying to confirm as to why. I've just scrubbed through. I do not see anything that obvious.
Yeah, you're right.
He snagged a wall to pick up damage. It's just
he's been in the lane.
Unless he's overdriven the tyres. It's maybe a thought, but the tyres are supposed to last this long.
I got a funny feeling that maybe he short-filled on... Oh, he changed some tyres anyway in the lane, but I'm wondering whether he was short-filled on fuel and maybe just miscalculated this, maybe thinking there might have been a safety car coming into play and hasn't taken enough fuel on board. The safety car's not materialised, and he's now gone out on... He's gone out on another set of the yellow sidewall tyres, which
he's
of
back
course
on the hard,
is the hard. So, look, either way, if he did make a mistake when it came to tyres and tyre combination, then he has corrected that anomaly. But I got a funny feeling he maybe took a fresh set of tyres purely because the opportunity was there and he had to put a little bit of extra fuel in the car. That will be something curious that we need to get an answer on after the night is over to fully understand that. So that does, as you rightly pointed out, elevates Brent Foley into 2nd place in the running order. Damon McDonald, you can see, into 3rd place. And this has turned out to be a bit of a dominant win for Will Devonish. He's got so much time in his pocket at the moment. He can afford to not hit the curbs on the chicane on the way through on any of them at the moment. He has got time to burn right now. And where is he on the track? He is actually coming up to his good friend Cam Rutledge to commence the final lap. So I wouldn't have predicted this at the beginning of the night, Rody, that it'd be such a dominant win. Yes, there would have been some accidents and some incidents and bits and pieces along the way, but not a win of nearly of closing in on now 27 seconds.
Yeah, I think I've just seen Ewing's out entirely, so I don't know whether what that was actually. No, I know what it is. I've just seen a tyre in the middle of the road at the first chicane. I think that's what's happened to Ewing.
He's
he's taken a tyre off.
Yeah, he's had a moment. He's had an accident there, pretty nasty accident by the sound of it from P7. So that's going to elevate Lochnan, Rutledge, Cox. All those drivers are all going to be elevated by this, and of course DNF means Igmanis and Boak are going to be elevated as well. It's been an attritional start to the round. So 5 non-finishers, 3 drivers that are out. Actually, Phil Boak has now officially pulled the pin as well, so 6 non-finishers for this one, and 2 cars that are 1 or more laps down. And, well, 27 seconds, the win is going to be for Will Devonish. He's going to allow Rutledge to stay on the on the lead lap here. The checkered flag will come out for the 2023 series champion, and he continues to bank those points with the lead of the championship, and now is the outright leader of the championship. Breaks the tie with Kurt Stenberg. One of them was bound to do it in this race. Brent Foley, good vintage performance from him. He's gained a spot there, gained several spots there, qualified really well in P7, although he did make that mistake in the shootout. Could have been a lot better. He will definitely take a podium after that one. Damon McDonald at the end of the day, he was fast. He was getting quite quick at the end of that. He was into an 11.5. He was fastest of the top 3 at the end of that one on the last tour. So he was only a handful of seconds behind Foley at the end of the day. SES Shogun still gets some respectable points through Luke Speck, even though the demise of Luke Newing was looking very good for them for this race. Kurt Stenberg for P5, that would have been P6 had Newing have not retired from that one. Jacob Palfrey gets P6, so no P word for you, unfortunately, but just a great substitute choice by those guys at Luke McHugh. Lockie Lock 7th ahead of Darren Lognan and Cam Rutledge in 9th, and then Daniel Cox in 10th. Newing is classed as 11th at the moment, but a non-finish will actually demote him 1 spot, because the rule is you must see the checkered flag to retain that position, and he hasn't, and that means Igmanis will move up to 11th in the order. Been a while, Rody, since this many cars actually scored points in a round. I can't remember the last time fewer than 11 cars or less actually scored points.
I don't think it's got to this point in a single driver round. I know we've definitely gotten to this point in enduros, especially
Yes.
Bathurst has historically been has become very traditional, but we've never got to this point with a single driver turn up to have 17 drivers start, to have 11 finish. But this is a long race, but this isn't even the longest race format we're throwing at these guys. There is a couple of single race rounds later in the year. They're not at Gold Coast, so that makes a difference. But yeah, to be fair, I don't think too many of them were caused by the track. No. Some of them were perhaps helped by the track, being encouraged by damage, or in case of, I think Boakey might have just got a little sick of the track cuts and decided, nah, screw it, which is a shame because he was so close to the end. But yeah, Newing pulling a wheel off, that arguably track related, but still Allison out because of hardware issues. Knight, I can't quite remember what happened to him. Warwick was an engine blown, you can do that anywhere, and Smith, yeah, it's a shame to the way that's played out. But what that means is if they're coming back for race 2, a lot of guys with the fuel in the belly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There'll be and a few people will have learnt some lessons from all of that running around, as well as what not to do when it comes to strategy and that as well. So Newing, I think, is probably one that we'll be looking at and trying to understand whether or not he did have a bit of a moment there when it came to fuel strategy or things like that, because that was definitely a curious one for me coming into the lane a second time. Usually that's a sign of either damage or, as you right, your tyres that are on the car that are not wrong, that are not the not meeting the minimum requirement, or in another case you run short on fuel. And yeah, everybody else that was around there as well that had issues or another, pushed the limits a little bit too much. And caused several issues. And of course, we had the two non-starters in Ben Hall, who we've got word through as a family matter, and Noah Taro, who elected to try and to sit out because he didn't trust the force feedback and didn't want to ruin someone else's race. So that's how all of that unfolded. And we now sort of wait a little bit here, Rhodey, for race number 2. So there's a quick 5-minute turnaround for everybody in this one. Gives people a chance to get back in, do a couple of laps, just get themselves all sorted before we go round and round the merry book, go around for another another 34 laps, or better part of 40 minutes. Took 41 minutes and 9 seconds for Will Devonish to take that win without a safety car, which is actually not too bad going around the Gold Coast. But it does give us a few moments here to take a brief pause and have a bit of a chat about some things, and to see a few cars that are opting to take to the track for this very brief warm-up session just before everything officially gets back underway. So as we mentioned a little bit earlier, Rhodey, the next round for both the Development Series and the Supercars Championship is at Topor. It's a return to the sprint race format from last year, the triple header format, which means you've got qualifying for race number 1. You've got a top half field inversion from the race 1 results, which forms the grid for race 2, and then you've got the progressive grid format from race 2 to race 3. So it does offer a little bit of an interesting spectacle. For Supercars, it is the distances have been upped to 60 kilometres instead of 50 kilometres, and for Dev Series up to 50 from 40. And the big factor that comes into play with the sprint rounds is the tyre multiplier, because that means it's a return to proper sprint racing, which means the soft tyre will not wear out. It's not about managing the tyre over the course of a sprint. You can actually sprint.
You can, yeah, no. Topor would be good fun. It was probably one of the better rounds of racing we had last year. I know Dev Series was generally a pretty enjoyable round. I know Supercars had some good fun with it. Leonard Grossel very nearly picked up, I think it was his first win.
Very close.
Very, 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 very close down to the last couple of corners. Yeah, no, it'd be a good track. It'd be a good break, I think, for these guys from this round especially. There'll be a few guys, even if they can bring something, together for race 2. Yeah, there's going to be a few guys, and the few guys I think that maybe aren't even going to be able to make it back for race 2. I've seen that Richard C. Arson's having issues staying connected to the server at this point, let alone having his wheel play up on him. And a few other guys having some fun with it as well. So we'll see how many guys get back in for this, but it's one of those things. We were talking after last week with Gold Coast and whether it gets dropped from the Dev Series because of not so much from a driver attendance issue, from a driver we'll call it driver brain attendance issue.
Conduct.
Conduct, yeah, a driver conduct issue. This one, I don't know, we don't get the filter in, but it does seem, maybe it's just the luck of the draw with where things are in the season, but yeah, slightly lower grids, at least in the way these things are playing out. Hopefully we get more finishes for race 2. Hopefully for the sake of the drivers we do, because a few guys in this grid, they're already having pretty hard luck stories at Gold Coast. The one easy one to look at is Ethan Knight, who had probably one of the probably going to be his worst Dev Series round last week at Gold Coast, and he's picked up a DNF in the first race here. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that are, yeah, I mean, to see. One thing I did actually note, though, in terms of drivers that we're missing out on, that I only just picked up on, although it was in the back of my head the entire time. There's one driver in the field who set time in practice who we haven't seen since, and it wasn't, and this isn't counting Ben Hall.
It was
Pete Thrower turned up for practice, and then dipped out for the start of qualifying and hasn't turned up since. I've just shot him a message because I was curious about it.
I've got the answer for you on that one.
Oh,
there was actually a little bit of not feeling the greatest, so just decided to see where he was placed, and again, one of those moments of I don't want to have a depending on whatever illness he's got, a coughing fit or something like that, and then turn out to ruin someone else's night. So right decision with all of those things, and not wanting to to be the one like a Noatara scenario, not wanting to be the one that takes someone else's head off by accident. So that's what he's done there. Coming back to your point about the development series, and I've been biting my tongue on this for a while. I felt compelled to say something on the night, but I decided not to. But I will say it now because it was rather poor, and the conduct on that night was disgusting, for want of a better word. There was 8 safety cars across the 2 races, which is just far too many. And I know there's a number of drivers that do both series, both development series and the Supercars. They do it back to back, and I'm not going to single out anybody in particular from the development series, but everyone puts it down to Gold Coast and Gold Coast things. It's not. It's there's a few drivers that need to have a good hard look at themselves, I think, when it comes to some of those issues. And especially moving forward, there will be, I guess, a bit of a review of some of those things that have happened, and we will see what goes on at the end of the day with everything for when the stewards meet to review everything that's been reported and all the other things as well. But 8 safety cars in the better part of 2 races is far too many. I think race 1 on its own right had 5. And took something like nearly 50 minutes to complete. There's a simple case of we've said for ages, if you want to spend your whole entire night tootling around behind the safety car, it can be organised, but you don't have to have an accident to do it. You just need to say so. So I think a few drivers that were considering looking at wildcarding at some point in time in Supercars, you might find yourselves with a little bit of grovelling and a little bit of work to do before that materialises. Let's go racing for race number 2 tonight, race 4 of the championship. It's 16, or there was 17 cars I was looking for. I'm just looking to see who we are actually missing. It looks like
we're missing Ethan Knight.
Yeah, the 15th place car, Ethan Knight. Not sure. It doesn't look like he might actually be coming back, I don't think. Not sure if he's actually on the. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's actually on the system or not. He actually didn't even make it back into the. I think he's actually gone offline, if I'm reading all this correctly. So probably not back in time for the start. So that means 16 cars starting the final race of the night, and Will Devonish will be the first one of those off of pole position. Brent Foley right alongside him. So the stalwarts of the ASR Supercars Championship are going to have a little bit of company from some newcomers. They're going to have Damon McDonald in 3rd and Luke Speck in 4th, right behind them. So getting a good start here is going to be crucially important. Someone that does get some really good starts is Kurt Stenberg. He's going to be starting in 5th place, and he's on the yellow marked compound there already. So that's already a signal of intent for him that he's going to do something a little bit different in this race compared to the last one. Jacob Palfrey going to be starting at 6th. He's on soft tyre next door to Stenberg. Then you've got Lockie Locke and Darren Lognan, and Cam Rutledge followed by Daniel Cox. Luke Ewing, he's going to look to make some progress fairly early in this one, starting P11 ahead of Curtis Manis. Phil Boak starting 13th, with Mitchell Steele-Allison in 14th, and then Steve Warwick and Ryan Smith round out the field, as you said before. The one we're missing is Ethan Knight, so he was due to start 15th, I think it was, and that elevates a couple of drivers behind him. That would have been behind the starting position, up a spot each, the same way that Noatara jumped out of proceedings tonight. He elevated half the field a bit further up the order. Round the final corner we come. Everybody getting ready to start the 4th 4th race of the championship. Let's try and work this one out, Rody, because we've seen already Stenberg's intent is clear here. He's gone to the alternate tyre. I think just about all the cars in front of him have probably gone for the softer compound, trying to get a good start here and try and sprint away. But this might come back to the number 1 if he can get a clean run over these first few laps.
There are a few cars, a lot of the guys at the back are on the hards, but generally speaking, the only other car aside from Stenberg up the pointy end is Foley. So Will might actually comparatively have a good start this time.
Yeah, comparatively, we need to see the proof in the pudding for this one before we'll judge that one. Race number 4 of the ASR Supercars Championship for 2025 is now officially under starters' orders and it is now underway. And as you can see there, Devonish had a decent start, but Foley had a very good reaction time. So too did the 59 car there of Damon McDonald, but he couldn't get past the wall. Oh. Foley's going to send it into turn number 1. He gets it done. So a hard tyre runner leads this race. Devonish down to P2 with Luke Speck moving up a spot to P3, Stenberg moving up to P4. So already good progress for the defending series champion on the hard tyre. Good start from him. Typical start from Will Devonish. Great start from Brent Foley and super commitment through the opening chicane.
Absolutely, yeah. I was surprised that he went for it. Probably Will was thinking that, as he snagged the tyre bond, was lucky not to get turned around there with Devonish, but it's given up the spot to Luke Speck, who's going to make him earn it. Oh, Speck has gone a little deep as well. What these guys are doing is giving Foley an absolute free kick of a chance to try and stretch the legs.
Yeah, they certainly are. So Speck goes through to P2, Devonish down to P3 already, so not a good start for your race 1 winner tonight. And now Stenberg all over him, and the 59 car there, Damon McDonald, has gone back a couple of spots. He's gone back to P5. Locke, who I believe actually started, I think he might have started 6th or 7th there. Started 7th actually, has moved up a spot ahead of Jacob Palfrey in a direct swap of positions.
Yes, a good start from Locke as well, and I believe he actually started. Yeah, he started on the softs this time around. He didn't start race 1 on the hards. Maybe he feels the soft tyre start is the better strat. Was what a lot of the leaders did go with in that first race. I'm going to see how this goes, but he is going to be on the same tyre strat as those around him. So Damon McDonald and Palfrey and Logden back there as well.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So it's a bit strung out at the moment. There's Palfrey on your screen, and behind him Logden and Cam Rutledge. Looks like Mitchell Steele-Allison has had a reasonable start. He's picked up 4 spots, just negotiating the chicane now. So he's picked up spots over, we've got there Cox and Newing, and it looks like the Minis car of Ryan Smith has had a reasonable start too. He's picked up a couple of spots from the back. Igmanis is the big loser out of all of this. He's actually dropped about 2 or 3 spots from where he started. And this is a real angry train here now, led by Daniel Cox. And I'm just trying to see what tyre Cox is on. He's on the yellow sidewall hard tyre. So too is Luke Newing. And what about the rest of them behind, Ray? Do you got any visual on that? And as Cox fakes out the pit lane.
I've just been looking at the battle for the lead there. I'm surprised Foley's held on for as long as he has. But at this point, he's got Speck and Devonish, Speck especially, just all of his rear bumper. He's doing a good job of putting the car exactly where he needs to hold them off, but they are going to have a speed advantage over him this early. He's really doing his best to stretch out that lead for as long as possible, but I think it's going to take a few more laps for them to perhaps take the gloves off and just muscle on by.
Yeah, certainly will. We're back to this little battle here on screen with Smith trying to make his way through. He's on the hard tyre as well. The first 3 cars in this group all on the hard tyre. As a bit of a moment there for Foley, and Foley's been turned. Foley with a bit of a moment there as Speck came down the inside of him at turn number 11, and that puts the PBF Camaro in a bit of a precarious position, back to 7th place now. So Luke Speck has the lead of this race, but I do want to go back and have a little bit of a look and see what actually unfolded there, because there's a bit of a strange one. I think Speck actually did send it up the inside. He had good purchase alongside, and a little bit out of control, and then Foley came around, and tagged by Devonish. That
yeah, I don't
think
that was intentional by Devonish.
Not intentional.
He just hadn't seen what was happening, and that an over-under was in process. Foley had to cut back because Speck was, Newing was up on the outside. So it was Speck. Sorry, Speck was up on the outside, and just yeah, Devonish didn't factor that in and just drove his usual line, and of course that meant Foley effectively cut up on him and got turned around. So that's real unfortunate for Foley. He's only at the back of this train and will be able to work his way back through. Crucially, his race is the long race. He's not really concerned about position directly.
Oops.
But he was in a good spot being able to hold the rest of the cars up. He won't be able to do that now.
No, and Speck won't be able to hold that position because he cut the chicane and gained the advantage. So he has to let McDonald go by, and he does. So that means that Devonish has got the lead of this race. Stenberg's worked his way forward to P2 in all of this. So he's quietly moved up the order, and actually probably is the best of the hard tyre runners at the moment. So he, again, like Foley, is playing the long game in all of this. And Devonish has now got to sprint and sprint like hell while he's got the soft tyres underneath him and get a margin, and then hope to God when he comes out of the pits that he is coming out into some clear track, and then he can just turn some fast laps. So it's all about getting in on the at the right time on this soft tyre for Will Devonish, but he's got to use it up while he's got it.
Absolutely, yeah. That said, he's not pulling too much on Stenberg, at least based on the last half a lap or so. He's going to have to really try and get some steam going there. But Stenberg in a really good spot right now. He can hold up the rest of the train. He can manage the gap as he needs to. Darren McDonald's there, and Darren McDonald did get past him. Well, took him 3 tries last race. The difference was that Kurt was an inferior car. I don't think that's the same time, the same situation this time around. So a bit more work for Damon to do to try and pass the one if he thinks he can. Otherwise, that train very much stretched out at this point. From Damon, you got about a second back to Speck, and then to Lockie Lock, who's just hanging on in there, as is Darren Wagner, and then back to Foley in 7th.
Yeah, just on board with Foley here, having a look down at end of Breaker Street, and then you can see this car 2 cars ahead of Brenton Foley in the distance. It was Lockie Lock, so he's running currently in 5th place. Soft tyre compound for him, so inverse of what he did in race number 1. So he'll be in with the in the leading group. So probably somewhere between lap 12 and lap 14 is probably where we're expecting it to be. Devonish promptly out in clear air, posts the fastest lap of the race, but he's only 0.3 of a second quicker than Kurt Stenberg on the last tour. In fact, Damon McDonald behind Stenberg was actually quicker than Stenny by about 1/10.5. So times are not stellar at the moment, but yes, they are full of fuel right now. And the one bit that I'm looking at now is what is McDonald got in store. Has he got anything in store for Kurt Stenberg? Tyre offset because of soft tyre versus hard tyre, and Stenny's made a little mistake there at the end of the beach chicane. McDonald looked down the inside here, and he's got purchase here. A little bit of side-to-side contact, that's okay, but he can't light the car. He lights the car up on the exit of 11, and then loses all his momentum.
Yeah, unlike last race, equal footing now for the pair of them. Stenny's not. I wouldn't say Stenny was rolling over last race, but he definitely has the car to stay in this position, and he needs to stay in this position. He needs to keep the cars behind. He needs to build and manage that gap and put himself in a good position to swing it back on Devonish to the back end of this race. Yeah, he's not going to make it too easy. Speck into the lane early, very early.
Yeah, that's very early for me. That's a soft tyre that's on that car as well. So this is playing the ultra long game here. Like, you're going to try and do nearly 28 laps on a hard tyre, which is getting into the upper limit of things. So that's a curious one for me, and that puts you at the back of the field. It does crucially put you in some clear air, so that's important. So you're now going to be able to run those laps on your own, and everybody's going to be paying some close attention, I think, now to what Speck actually can do on that harder tyre with a very heavy car, mind you.
Yeah, I think Speck is in a good position where, unless you're able to sit there and study it the way that, not even we can, to be fair, we've got that much other stuff to focus on, but if you're an engineer's position, yeah, the only guys that are to pick up on any difference from Speck, because he's pitted that early, he's been that far out of the train, we're not going to see him passing cars through pits or through any other strategy changes until much later in this race. If it is the strategy master call, we won't know it, and to be fair, he won't necessarily know it until it actually comes to fruition. So it could be the right call, and if if Speck is going in this early by design, I very much feel it is by design. I feel like he's done the research, done the work necessarily. He is the guy providing the setup recommendations for the Dev Series field this year, and he has been providing for a few other teams in the last 12 months. Yeah, I think the big gamble for Specky at this point is going to be staying on the lead lap.
Yes.
And not only for what that does around a safety car, but also just getting in clean air, because the second you start being under blue flags, especially once he's into the range of the likes of Stenberg, he's not going to be out of blue flags again for another. The rest of the field's going to be through, because it's that early. They're all still relatively bumper to bumper. He's going to be under blue flags the entire run as soon as he gets caught, and I say that he is not far off getting caught by Devonish at this point.
Yeah, so let's just keep an eye on things here. So as you look at him there's your race leader in the background, just coming out of the final corner. So Spec starting lap 8, and then you're going to have Devonish, your race leaders, about to start lap 9. Now, the race leader is on the soft tyre, so he's got about 4 or 5 more laps before he's due to stop anyway. So if Spec can hang on for 4 to 5 laps, that will buy him a bit more time, because Stenberg's some 5 seconds in arrears, nearly 5 seconds in arrears of Will Devonish at the moment. So that's the game for Luke Spec, is hold on. Oh, safety car. Right, first one of the night. So that's important, because
Steve Warwick at the last corner.
It is. It's Steve Warwick, sadly, at the last corner. So something has happened to the PBF Renstall number 63 here. We're not quite sure. We're about to find out. Coming into the final corner here, he's ahead of Phil Boak, and he's done. Yeah, he's done. Oh, and take the wheel off. Oh, and Phil Boak right in behind him as well. So wheel departs company with the 63, and that is all done and dusted for him, unfortunately. Phil Boak was in the right spot, obviously, to take advantage of that, because he's in the lane. And this will trigger a flurry of activity on pit lane. So this has actually fallen. It's actually fallen pretty well for Will Devonish after all of this. It's also fallen pretty well for Spec, but this actually ruins the strategy for Luke Spec as well, because it compresses the. Well, it's not so bad because it compresses the field. It gets him back onto the tail, but any of these other concertina effects and playing the long game and running in clear air, that sort of ruins a little bit of it for him.
To a degree, I think what this is going to do. This is. It's interesting. Basically, if you're pitting at this stage and not wanting to pit again, this is when you jump on hard tyres.
Yeah, well, the hard tyre runners are going through. So look at this. The important piece here is that all the hard tyre runners are committing. So Stenberg's gone through, Foley's gone through, so too Steele, Allison, Ewing, Egmanis. They all started on the hard tyre. They've all gone through. So they've this hasn't fallen kindly for them, and they do need another safety car to stop again.
Yeah, what I was going to say is the one thing this does outright bone at this point is anybody who still has to stop, and by anybody else to stop, it's anybody who is currently on hard tyres trying to make the hard tyres work. The exception is Spec. He's already done his pit stop, so he gets an advantage over. Actually, to be fair, the advantage he's getting most directly is over the lead pack currently.
Only over the current
top 5. Because have to stop and he doesn't, and he's not going to make up too many spots here, but he's already picked up 3 or 4 in that train. He's going to slot in just behind Cam Rutledge, who I have to check what tyres he's sitting on, but he's moved his way up to 11th just off of that stop.
Yeah, he has.
It's going to be to drive it from there, but Rutledge on hards, Lognan hards. Everybody is currently, I believe, on hards.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody's currently on hards now, and it just means that the top 5 are currently on worn hards, right? They've done 10 laps. The other drivers have all on a brand new set of hard tyres, so compresses the field.
There are only 2 sets of drivers on softs currently, one of which being Ryan Smith, the other one being Daniel Cox. Otherwise, the entire field is on hards, either fresh hards or the guys right at the front on used hards.
Free pass for Phil Boak as well, so he's going to get back on the lead lap, so that's a good thing for him. But he knows the rules, he's got to go around and catch the train. Boakie's been through the lane. He actually was the first one to jump into pit lane when the safety car was called, because he was just behind Steve Warwick, got a little bit inconvenienced by the incident. So he will get going and get onto the back of the train. Yeah, Ryan Smith is the one you said was one of the ones that's on soft. He's actually pitting from the lane now, so I think that's probably not a bad idea for Smith. Like, you're down toward the back anyway, but you also avoid the chaos of pit lane. You've got a bit of room to yourself, and as long as the safety car is not going in this lap, that's okay. If the safety car is going in this lap, you've got to get this stop done, and you've got to go at maximum speed to catch the back of the pack so you don't lose too much time. Wait and see what the verdict happens to be when he comes out. So Phil Boak, as you said, has got his lap back, and he actually might get that lap back over Ryan Smith, depending on how things shake out. He's coming down to the final corner now. Smith's still stationary in the lane, and actually probably will, I think, maybe just get out before the 046, the PBF stable, and he will, not probably by a handful of seconds. And
Yeah,
now
so that was Smith correcting me from earlier. So now it is just Daniel Cox on the soft tyres. So I'm not sure why Ryan went an extra lap around. Maybe he just was a bit flustered. Maybe trying to avoid a chaotic pit lane because he didn't have to worry about double stacking with anyone. His teammates tonight would have been Ben Hall, who had to unfortunately step away. For Daniel Cox, that makes a degree of sense if Rutledge has been in, but he also didn't then take a stop the second lap through. So I don't know what strategy Cox on at this point because he's only one in the field on soft tyres.
Yeah.
They're going to be, I'm pretty sure he started on soft, so they're going to be, well, actually...
Yeah, he has to have started on soft tyres because...
Sorry, he started, he's been through the lane. He started on hards. He's one of the few I know that I'm pretty sure was starting on hards. So if I remember correctly, he started on hards, he's now on softs. Good luck making them last from here.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's going to have to stop again at this point because if he started
Either he's factoring in another stop and he's going, everyone else around me might stop again anyway. And he's just rolling the dice. He's literally just putting his race in the hands, which the one thing I recommend you don't do, generally speaking, put your race in the hands of the guys around you.
Yeah, or
because that's a really bad way to do things. Yeah, put your race in the hands of gods. You're the one that decides how good your race is ultimately, if you apply yourself. But I think that's kind of what he's done to a degree. I think he's probably run the math, at least with the time he's had, figured that was really no good option for him, and he just thought, well, look, we'll do this and see what happens.
Well, what I would have done then to save face, and so I don't have to stop again, if this race goes green flag, he's finishing dead last.
More or less, yeah.
More or less. So what I would have done is gone in, like he's done, put the soft tyre on, do a lap on the soft tyre, come in, put the hard tyre on. You fulfilled the requirement to use both compounds. Right?
Very true.
That's the smart math and doing it in that one and getting it over and done with. Then you don't have to stop again. Both your pit stops have been taken care of under the safety car. Yes, you might have lost a couple of extra spots, but at the end of the day, you have fulfilled the requirement and you at least still have a chance of picking up some spots on others around you rather than finishing, God knows how many seconds off the back of the pack.
Yeah, the counter point that we're going to see, and the not too distant future, is whether a safety car does the standard traditional thing that happened IRL, that happened last week, and whether it breeds another safety car or not. These guys have done a pretty good job of having clean race starts. We haven't seen a restart yet for the Supercars field.
No, we haven't, and we're, I think, probably still a little while away from getting one because Stenberg has not got control of the field yet, so that means we're going full distance under the safety car here. So the hard tyre runners up the front getting a little bit of a reprieve on how hard they get used. Now that will extend the life a little bit, but I dare say they'll probably try and maybe get the tyres out maybe to about lap 22, 23, if that is the case. Well, Stenberg is getting control of the field now.
Yeah, I get the feeling we're going. Yeah,
we're going. I was a bit surprised because normally the race leader would pick the field up a little bit earlier than this. And we are going to keep tabs on some few things here. A couple of penalties being issued, so that's not a surprise there. But Stenberg controls the restart, and we're back underway.
Yeah, so that was a really interesting one. I think the rest of them are expecting Stenberg to be a little bit closer to them, which is why he's restarted with about a half second to a second gap from Foley. Foley, I think, was trying to control the field, expecting that Stenberg, I don't know, was going to get a drive-through or something for where he was. What that's meant is there is now a nice check-up behind Foley, which is still Allison, Newing, Egmanis ahead of Devonish, which is a bit of a funny one. And then, McDonald's the back of that train. They're stretching out for Wonky Lock and Darren Logden at this point.
Yes, they certainly are. So that has made a few little adds, moves and changes in the field after all of that is done. And stewards are busy just looking at a couple of those little penalties and just making sure they all get cleared as they rightfully should. But Foley, a bit of a mistake going into turn 11, turn 12, nearly got the wall there. And Allison is right, still in lockstep with him. So as you rightly called, those top 5 are the cars that did not stop in all of this. So they have got a bit of work to do. They need a little bit of help with the safety car to sort a few things out. Will Devonish is the effective race leader after all this is done because of the stops. He's actually going past Egmanis now, so just gives him the high ground here. So team orders in place at CRE Engineering. Oh, Devonish has to cut the chicane there. That's too quick. That will burn one of his available track cuts, and so he'll one of his lives is gone. Because it is the Gold Coast, there has been a slight change to the driver regulations for this round. They have been awarded an extra track strike for just for shits and giggles sake, but it means you get 4 before you're on your last warning, and then the 5th one you're in. And if you normally, it's only 3. So a little bit of an extra one. But as we saw, there was only one driver that managed to rack up more than 5 or more in the first race. And that driver is currently the last driver in the queue and didn't do any practice, so it's not a surprise.
Yeah, it's of the tracks coming into with no practice, it's probably one of the worst.
That's right. So clear breakout in front for Kurt Stenberg. He's got quite a healthy margin at the moment, actually. It's nearing 3 seconds as he goes down the start-finish line and posts a 10.8, so pretty handy time for him on the used hard tyres. Then you got Brenton Foley with a small train behind him. It's not a choo-choo train at this point. It's a little bit strung out, but he's got to defend from Steele Allison and from Luke Newing. And that's for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And then you've got Will Devonish, who is ahead of Damon McDonald, as they're down the hairpin now, and they're starting to work their way forward on some of these cars that are yet to stop. So Igmanis is starting to sink a bit like a stone here because the lock's gone through. Speck's not too far off going through, and I wouldn't be surprised to see if Logman can make his chance here. Oh, Steele Allison's had a moment at the chicane, and I think he got the wall there behind Brenton Foley. That's going to mean he has to slow up a little bit here. Just be mindful of these race leaders, makes the right decision and lets those drivers through on the run through turn number 11. But for him, he is I think probably maybe only the 2nd victim, I think, of this chicane tonight. So looked all good at that point there. Oh, just up for too long at the last part of the chicane, and just didn't get the angle of attack right on the turning point for turn 10.
Yeah, he's been pretty lucky. I would have expected a bit more damage there, but all in he's ended up walking away with a bit of steering damage, or mostly suspension damage. But no, tyres stayed up, so I think he was just waiting till he could get a clear bit of run, and probably felt like he wasn't liking his chances of holding off Devonish and McDonald, given the rate of knots they were closing at. But he's still going. He's just going to have a little bit of work to do to get back to where he was.
That's right. So Locke has now cleared Igmanis as well, and the next piece will be can Luke Speck and Darren Lockman manage to get past the number 51 that's yet to stop. And we called it that there's probably going to be maybe around lap 22, 23 is where we're probably going to expect to see some of these hard tyre runners that haven't stopped yet, that are on the 16 lap old tyres come through. Here we go, Speck down the inside here in turn 11 and gets a bit of command of some space, and he's not going to consolidate that pass until we get to turn 12, but now he's on the wrong side of the circuit for the next corner. But Igmanis gives it up. That checks up Lockton, who was thinking about a move down the inside there at 12, and he was smelling another spot there like a shark smelling blood in the water, and now looking to get a bit more better drive traction out of the final corner, but might struggle a little bit from there because Igmanis is going to have the draft of the car in front to help him along.
He will, yeah. There's as just keeping track of his progress, is that Speck is the only driver that started on these hards prior to the safety car. So he's in a good spot with a lot of the guys in front of him. Igmanis obviously being one who's just passed through, but a lot of the guys ahead of him do still have to stop. There are a few other that they're up there that don't, but he's only effectively about 5 seconds away from the effective race leaders.
Bit of a moment exiting the hairpin. Cam Rutledge facing into the wall, and a couple of cars that had to take some evasive action. So the just a localised yellow, not enough to trigger another safety car, although that would have helped the drivers that hadn't stopped yet, if that was the case. So now, did Rutledge do this on his own?
I've got a feeling Ryan Smith was involved, so I've just seen a redress.
Yep, so here we go. So this is what happened here. So Rutledge, oh yeah, that's why the redress is there, and turned him around. Just got a little bit too aggressive exiting the hairpin. And yes, if you've seen the redress, Rody, I believe you. And that will be the reason why. And as we go back to live pictures, yes, you are absolutely right. Smith has made that redress happen. Wouldn't be surprised to see that one in the steward's notes after this one is over. Igmanis finally decides to pull the trigger at lap 17. So this is a little bit early to try and get a set of hard tyres home from here, I would have thought. Sorry, not a set of hard tyres, a set of soft tyres home from here, I would have thought.
You're pushing Dev Series. I think the upper limit for Dev
15.
Series was 15, 16. I'd heard reports saying to the effect of 16, 17, but that was very much dependent, I think, on pace and just the way that you achieve that pace with your tyres. I think he's perhaps in the same kind of position to a degree as we argue that Specky
We've got
might
a yellow
be.
flag. We've got a yellow flag down here in this sector. Oh, it's Luke Newing. So Luke Newing in the fence, exiting the chicane here and getting going. So he's had a moment at the beach chicane and going to drop a couple of spots here to those two drivers. He's got a flat tyre.
He's going to be in the lane. He's going to puncture. Yeah.
So yeah, from here, I mean, you're probably going to take the gamble that Egmanis has taken here and put the soft tyre on. We'll get a paint doctor replay here now, and we'll see what's happened here to the number 17. It's gone from bad in race 1 to worse here. Yep, that's a big moment. That's a properly big moment. And fortunately, the cars that came along sit all right in front of the race leaders too. So they managed to scoot right past it full pelt, and then he managed to grab reverse gear and get that car going again. So sad state of affairs, and actually that's Newing into retirement as well. So
yeah, so he's the second car out of this one as well. So we're down to just 14 cars. Hopefully we don't go any further than that. But
if I recall correctly, this round wasn't kind to him last year either.
No, I don't believe it was. It's a shame. He was holding some good pace. Yeah, it's a shame. He was able to keep with the leaders, and then just what we presume was fuel. But yeah, I think he's going to really be kicking himself, or just kicking the gods, I suppose, for this one in the hand he's been drawn, because he had some really good pace when he was on it tonight.
Yeah, he was. He was in that top 4 or 5 positions. He was looking very good in race 1, and yeah, it's all come unglued for 17 after, as I said, what we perceived to be a fuel-related drama in race number 1, and then starting a bit further down the order, and started to make a bit of progress, but then unfortunately has bowled wide at the very notorious beach chicane. I would go so far as to say, Rhodey, that the beach chicane is even more notorious than Adelaide's turn 8.
Oh yes, absolutely. Well, it's the thing is, generally speaking, if you've had a quote-unquote death at Adelaide Turn 8, it's been entirely of your own controlled doing. It's because you've turned in late, or you've turned in early, or what's happened more IRL than, unfortunately for us, because we don't have options for weather. You've not driven the conditions and driven through as if it was dry when it was in fact moist, if not completely wet. But generally speaking, that or people being collective idiots and trying to go too wide through them, which doesn't work. But generally speaking, you're in complete control of your car. Your car never leaves the ground unless you clobber the inside wall on the curb there. The beach chicane, you really, to a degree, are rolling the dice. Not that wind would play an effect in IRL, but there's that many factors that once your car leaves the ground, you are really just crossing fingers and hoping that, or even as simple as your wheel is still in the same position you left it when you left the ground. Because if your wheel is turned when you land again, your car could catch and grab and do things it wasn't planning on doing.
Yeah, that's right. It's about about your positioning of the wheel. As I was saying, it's about the flow. Yeah. Through the chicane, right? You've got to make sure if you are hitting the curb with a little bit of steering lock on, that you've turned the wheel at precisely the right time, and then you've got it back to position so when your car hits the ground, that it doesn't, as you said, grip and go one direction over another. We've got Lockie Lock now starting to come under a little bit of pressure from Luke Speck now. Lock on the hard, and obviously Speck was on the hard that he went on to fairly early in proceedings and caught that early safety car. That sort of it's had a bit of an interesting effect. It cruelled his progress because it would have meant that everybody else that was around him needed to pay a bit of attention to what was going on and then decide how to react against it. The safety car helped matters, getting back into a good spot, gave his tyres a bit of respite. And he will pick up a couple of spots when the likes of Stenberg and Foley do eventually stop. It will be a bit touch and go when they do stop, because he's probably going to get overhauled on the softer tyres pretty quickly. They'll probably won't be too far off his rear bumper when all of that happens. But he's playing that sort of card and trying to see what happens at the end of it. Just keeping an eye on where the PBF Races Engineering Camaro and the Anti-Call Autosports Camaro both are. So Stenberg on lap 22 now, exiting the final corner. Now we did say is probably expecting to be maybe around somewhere between Lap 23, I think, is probably where you wanted to try and get it to. Maybe lap 24, and you get a stint on softs that goes for about 10 laps, where you're just burning qualifying laps and having a happy hour, so to speak. Foley's in, so that answers one question, because he was roughly only a handful of seconds behind Stenberg at last check, and he's going to go on to the soft tyre from here. And there goes Devonish, and there goes a bunch of others. Spec, Ogden, Locke, they've all gone through here. Now, what does Stenberg do? How does he react to this? He's lost the race lead, the effective race lead. That's the end result there. But for him, it'll be about where is that crossover point? We talked about it. You know, where does he think the crossover point is? He's been doing 1 minute 11s, so that's actually not a bad time to do it. It's actually, last time around he was quicker than Will Devonish by 1/10 of a second. So, you know, hard tyre's still got some good life in it, but he's not pulling away from the CRE Mustang at the moment. So it's almost a case of, you know, probably, if not this lap, which is going around now, probably has to be the next lap and get it over and done, because you're risking now, the longer this goes on, you're risking a safety car coming out at precisely the wrong time and getting trapped by it. If you get in now, you get it over and done with. You don't risk trying to run the gauntlet and worry about the safety car a bit later on. I mean, the safety car could have two effects here, Rody. It could have the effect of coming out precisely the right time and then compressing the field. But either way, you're still going to lose some spots, but you may not lose as many. Oops, and a bit of a moment in the beach chicane there as well. That might be a double doink there, I think, for Kurt Stenberg. So the yoink one track cut, and I'll probably yoink another after that one. That might have got his attention about maybe it is time to get in and grab a fresh set of boots.
Yeah, I think looking at where Foley's dropped, he's going to lose within region of 50 seconds. The interesting thing for Stenberg at this point is going to be whether he drops in ahead or behind the little Cam Rutledge, Ryan Smith, Jacob Palfrey train that's going on right now. That's really going to be the biggest impedance to any forward progress on softs.
And Stenberg
he has committed to come in now. So
Oi!
That was very close.
Yeah, locked it up, crossing the line there. Now I think there is a little bit of leniency, so we'll wait and see how he goes with his stop here. So Foley came out in position number 11, but he was of course a couple of seconds behind Stenberg on the track, so we're not expecting that position to change hands. But yeah, see that little angry pack ahead, that's the pack that you're worried about, isn't it, Roddy? That's the pack that Stenberg's hoping he clears, because this is quite nasty. Oh, Foley into the back of Palfrey. Very nasty, and that's caused a logjam. Rutledge will get out of this, and that's purely accidental on Foley's behalf. He'll be filthy with himself for that manoeuvre. He's facing the wrong direction. Stenberg will get out, clear of that little battle. Oh, safety car right at the in-op right now. So that's from the issue down there at turn number 12, I think it was. We saw it on the camera. We're not going to go back and replay it. It came out just as Stenberg cleared pit road.
All right, so the two people this has helped seemingly. Ryan Smith into the lane from his battle with Cam. I think he was good on tyres. I think he's just trying to play the game now.
Right, so
same with Igmanis, he's in, so he's just been saved by that. He can go to presumably another soft.
Yeah, he's on hard, so he'll go to soft.
Foley's also come in. He just pitted, but he's come in for probably, to be fair, he's probably doing the
penalty serve.
No penalty for Foley.
Oh, bit of a moment here. Look at this in the pit lane. Igmanis trying to get in and Smith trying to leave. That one will definitely, I would imagine, have a little bit of something to say after this one's over. So we've got to unscramble this order in a little bit. So Devonish and McDonald are the two race leaders that are first and second on the road. Spec is deemed to be third at the moment. There is some lap traffic in the way there, which is Phil Boak, and I'm waiting to see whether or not he actually gets the free pass here.
Actually, I think the guys that pitted have just completely boned themselves. They're all a lap down.
Yeah, they are. They've gone a lap down.
And they need the guys. They need Devonish in the lane. They need McDonald in the lane. They need Spec. They need basically that entire top set. They need all the way. Foley needs everyone up to Steele Allison to be going through the lane. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to all trapped a lap down. The only person going to get a lap back, if any,
It's Phil Boak.
if stewards decide to throw a lucky dog, is going to be Phil Boak.
Yep, and the lucky dog is randomised as well. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. This will scramble this order as well, because there's cars that are out of place in this order, but unfortunately, if you are not a lap car and directly behind the safety car, you do not get a free pass. So it's about whether or not the stewards deem to give you a free pass, and if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be Phil Boak, as you rightly pointed out. So what on earth does this do to the order? So let's have a look at it here. You've got Will Devonish, who is the leader of the race. He is officially the leader of the race because he has stopped and he's on the hard tyre. He doesn't need to stop again. Same for Damon McDonald. He does not need to stop again. The lap cars in between, Phil Boak and Ryan Smith, they don't need to stop either, but they are both trapped a lap down in 10th and 11th respectively. The next car in the queue is Luke Speck. In terms of position, he is third. Darren Lognan is fourth after all of this, and he has stopped. Lockie Locke is fifth. Daniel Cox is sixth, and he's got Curtis Igmanis ahead of him, who is a lap down. Kurt Stenberg directly behind Daniel Cox. Then you have Cam Rutledge in eighth. And then on the road behind Cam, you've got Brent Foley there, who's a lap down. And then behind him, Steele Allison, who is ninth. The 10th place car is the third car in the queue. So this makes life very, very difficult to organise. So there's your 10th place car, there's your 11th place car, there's your 12th place car of Igmanis in the pack. So everybody's together, but they're just all jumbled up and out of order. Foley in 13th, and then you've got Palfrey, who's well off the back. He was the worst one inconvenienced of the lot of them, hit by Foley in 14th, and currently last with Ewing and Warwick out of this one. And you know what, Rody, I'm probably going to expect to see a self-report from Brent Foley after this one, because I know the kind of person that he is, and he will not be happy with himself that he's hit another competitor.
No, I just looking at it, I think practically for this race, depending on how the lap traffic filters out, we're going to have a battle for the lead. We're going to have a battle with everybody else more or less for third, and then there's going to be somewhere within all that a battle to be the last car in the top 10, because they are at least on the same lap as each other. They are within about 5 seconds because of the train, and the guys at the front are going to start having to drop through a bit quicker than the guys at the back, because blue flags will hit them a lot sooner. But this is not a good track to get blue flags on. So we're going to see how this plays out. Hopefully they're going to wait until the back straight. Hopefully the guys that want to get past them wait until the back straight, but there's no guarantees on that at all. No, we're going around again, I believe, given the gap to Devonish, so it's just ticking it down. For those that are on the soft tyres or potentially on new softs, it's giving them a little bit more of a window to work with, but
it's also
giving them less time. It's going to be interesting.
It's giving them less time to use that rubber to their advantage as well. So
True,
Kurt Stenberg, who's on the soft tyre in P7, he needs to get cracking here, because he wants laps. He needs laps to be able to try and pass them here. So by the time we work lap 28 and finish it, we're going to have 6 laps left of this race at best. Green flag running, assuming we go to the end of this one. So looking through the field just to see anybody that's actually on that soft tyre. So we know the leaders are on the hard tyre. Luke Speck's been on the hard tyre since lap 6. So he's got a fair old way to go here, still to make all this work. Oh, there's a... What on earth is...
Smith is back.
Yeah, I was about to say, what just happened to Ryan Smith? Because he just dropped it something chronic at the hairpin. We presume
either
that's what happened.
Trying to warm tyres, or he got assisted.
I don't know, but whatever the situation, he's not allowed to resume his position from where he was. So that one, we're going to go back and take a little bit of a look at that, because that is that's a most curious one. Don't preempt the broadcast, Rody. And let's see what he's done. And I think you might have called this a spot on here. What's he done? So he's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and on his own. Yep.
Well, I know he's in the chat, so I can call him.
No.
He's not the driver, the man who does this, who's done this sort of stuff before. Although his thing is more formation laps rather than safety car laps, but it's a very Scott Murrell thing to do, to take yourself out on a lap where there is no scoring. That's on a lap where nothing matters, to just wobble around and take yourself out trying to warm tyres, or
it's just like
do whatever really. But that was the advantage for him, at least, is that he's still with the cars he's racing, and he's actually a little closer to that train now. But complete self skill issue. That was. Yeah, that wasn't a proud moment for him.
No.
He's living up to doing questionable things at Gold Coast.
No, it's just like cruise lines in any way, where you get points, but points don't matter. But in his case, there were no points, and they didn't matter anyway, even if he did get them. We're back to green flag running now. Will Devish has got control of the field, and of course everything's going to happen here in the next 6 laps or so. It is going to be on between the first 2 cars as they cross the line, and we go back to green flag running for the second time in this race. So 2 safety cars have come into play, and we are going to wait and see how this one shakes out, Rody, because this is going to be interesting as Devonish bolts as quickly as he can. He needs to open a margin.
Absolutely, a couple of guys that did snake penalties, but stewards will be on to clear that. The yellow at the final corner, that'll be the lap.
Oh, it's another safety car. No, it's another safety car.
Stenberg's around.
It's another safety car. So the yes, I'm looking to see what actually happened there, because yeah, Kurt Stenberg and one of the PBF Camaros involved.
Yep.
Might be Phil Boak. I haven't quite seen it there, but we'll have another look at that one, because yeah, one of the PBF Camaros was very slow. Exiting now, I think here we go. So what happened to Stenberg here? So in behind Locke. Oh, a bit of a moment for Locke. Oh, and he got the inside wall. Oh dear, and that's why it's actually Foley who got collected by Stenberg in all of that. So Stenberg was inconvenienced by Locke getting 2 wheels very much airborne at turn 2. And then when he came back down, he sort of ran into the rear of him and then collected. He was a bit too close to the wall, and I reckon he's grabbed and sheared that wall.
Yeah,
and that's turning him around. So that actually loses Stenberg 2 spots in all of that. He's going to get one of them. No, Palfrey's a lap down, so he's not going to get that one back. So that elevates Rutledge and Steele Allison in all of that. Spec managed to clear, so Phil Boak got out of the way, and Spec managed to clear both Boak and who was the other car that was ahead of him at the time? I think it was
Ryan Smith.
Ryan Smith, yeah. Well, Ryan Smith took himself out because of that other incident.
Oh, true. So yeah, so it would have been Phil Boak.
Yeah, so Spec managed to get past the lap traffic there. So too did everybody else. So that means our top what have we got? Top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our top 7 cars at the moment have no traffic concerns whatsoever. Mitchell Steele Allison has the lap traffic of Phil Boak to contend with, and then you've got Kurt Stenberg, who's got a couple of cars to deal with here. If I was Ryan Smith, I'd be behaving myself right now. I wouldn't be trying to do anything stupid like he did a couple of laps ago. He's got to sit there and take your medicine at this point. There's no point in warming up those tyres. You've only got a handful of laps to go. Just bring it home.
Yeah, I think we've just been confirmed by the fact that Foley's in the lane, is that safety car isn't going in this lap. He's relying on the safety car to keep the train checked up so he doesn't go another lap down.
Yes.
But he's probably just grabbing a, well, I mean, given where he is in the queue, you might as well go another fresh set of softs. The question now for this is how long does the safety car stay out for? And well,
Foley
will this become
Foley will beat the safe. Foley will just beat the train out as well. So he'll stay 1 lap down.
The other question was, will this become a NASCAR green white checker of 2 laps? Will this become essentially an ASR green white checker of 1 lap? And will the race have to get extended as a result? Yeah, I don't think the extension is a possibility, given when the safety car started. I think it will come off before the end, but it's going to pretty much guarantee a maximum of I think probably 2 racing laps, maybe 3 before we end this race.
Well, we had 6 laps left on the board when we went back to green flag, and we completed obviously one of those under a partial yellow. So the safety car minimum laps is 2, and the maximum laps is 4. So that means you can, if you tack a maximum 4 onto the 5 remaining laps that was there, that takes you out to the end of lap 33. So you'd get 1 lap under sprint finish if that was the case. At worst, or you would get 3 laps at best. If the safety car would go in at the end of lap 30, at the end of lap 31. So that's how that would pan out. The there. So I'm currently on lap 31. So this is the second lap under safety car. So we'll wait and see what happens after this. If we get at least one more or two more, or we don't get any more. For Devonish's sake, I think he'd be quite happy just to sit here and take 2 more laps under safety car. Probably Damon McDonald and Luke Speck, I'd say as well. Speck's tyres, those hard tyres have been on since lap 6, are probably crying enough at this point, and I think he wouldn't want to probably lose or have to worry about fighting for a spot with Darren Wagner at the restart here, because he'll be pretty hungry. He can see that podium. He's not had a podium in ASR Supercars before, neither's Luke Speck. You know, you've got 2 hungry drivers that are there really looking hard at the last spot on the roster. And, you know, all it takes is for them to trip over themselves, and you end up with the likes of, you know, Lockie Lock or Daniel Cox potentially grabbing another couple of spots. We are getting 1 more lap at least under the safety car. So this starts to become music to Will Devonish's ears, because it just means that we're just tootling along here, and the time continues to tick down now into the end of the 45th minute of this race, almost as long as a half of soccer. And it will be longer than a half of soccer. It'll be pretty close to a full half of soccer plus injury time if you listen to that sport or watch that sport. Probably that's the way that it is, because they do add God knows how many minutes on for all the fake shit that happens in those sorts of games. People, you know, deciding they've, you know, some innocuous knock on their ankle, they've somehow gone over and dumped over in pain. Bunch of pussies.
I'll just let you go there for a little bit. Just work some stuff out. But yeah, we've worked out the point where we're not far off the length of I think it was race 1 for Dev Series. Part of that is because we are running more laps, but also because we are now in our 3rd safety car, and we've blocked with some pretty long ones. But yeah, the interesting point will be, and we haven't really got a good verification of it in the last 10 laps to really have a recent bit of history to look at. But in the last couple of laps prior safety car, I think Damon McDonald was looking a little quicker than Devonish. I don't know whether that was because Devonish was saving and McDonald didn't have to, or what that was to it. But I still think there's something to the end of this race. I think the longer safety car goes, the less Will's going to have to worry about it. But I don't think, at least in the case of Damon, that everything's settled just yet. I think he's got the pace to do something. Speck, I think, is playing defensive. His tyres are going to be the worst of the field.
Here we go.
He's worried about Damon. Sorry, about Darren.
2 more laps to go, and if you're playing along at home, the important piece of the puzzle is the Dev Series race of 31 laps that had 5 safety cars went for 48 minutes, so 47 minutes and 48 seconds. So we're not far off that, and we're doing 3 more laps, and we've had 2 less safety cars, so you can figure that one out. Right, 2 more laps to go. Green flag will be in the air this time around. If we get another safety car on this lap, we go into overtime. And, well, there should be fueled for it. There should be no excuses, but have you got the boots for it? Devonish, right to the very last minute, leads them away at the start-finish line. Damon McDonald just slightly missed the jump there, but still safe in P number 2 as we head into the chicane.
Yeah, so that was a very nice start from the field. I think everyone's managed to make it through the first chicane. Couple of guys, lap traffic just getting out of the way, but otherwise much cleaner run there, and we've made it to the hairpin. Yep,
Steele Allison down the inside of the lap traffic, Phil Boak, so that puts him right on the rear bumper of Cam Rutledge, who himself is on the rear bumper of his teammate as they head up toward the beach chicane. Now, Coxie's had some defensive roles to play in the first race, and again in this one. But this one, I'll tell you what, it's got a little bit more pride at stake because he's got his teammate to be concerned about, and you always want to beat your teammate.
Absolutely, that's the minimum bar for any 2 team or any multi-car team, is to be beating your teammate or teammates. And good little battle for these guys over the last. We'll be lapping a bit. They've got Steele Allison tucked in there as well, who's shown some good glimpses of pace. And actually Stenberg has just, I think, assisted Phil Boak around. Yeah, well, Phil Boak's gone around in all of this. It's a localised yellow as it sits right now. If Devonish can get back to the line before we get to a safety car scenario, then we are guaranteed to get a finish under yellow if the safety car is called for an on-track incident, and we're there. We are on the final lap. Officially, we will not be going into overtime. Yeah, so the top three are stretched out pretty well. Specs actually very safe from Darren Long. Now, Darren Long is being through is actually Lockie Lock behind,
Yeah, he is.
trying to make the moves. And still Allison picked up a drive through.
Yep, right at the death there as well, and that one unfortunately is for track infringement, so he'll be demoted 30 seconds in the timing chains in this. I mean, for him it doesn't matter because he is the last car on the lead lap as it sits right now, so he won't go any further than that. I mean, the game will probably dock him a lap, but that will be credited back at the end of the day from completing it. A couple of drivers in the back cutting the chicane there. Lock looking left, looking right, forcing the defensive act from Lockton over and under. No, got him square in the rear bumper. That's not how you do it. Back out in front. It's Devonish has got 2 more corners to negotiate, and he will pick up his 2nd win of the night, and it'll be his 3rd win of the first 4 races in the championship, and he's going to tow home Damon McDonald. And that's a great result for the two of them. So 1st and 2nd on the road. Good job for Luke Speck as well. 3rd for him. Just reward from a contra strategy. Pitting very, very early. Safety cars helping his cause. Great result for Darren Lognan, 4th place. His best result in ASR Supercars. And I think the same for Lockie Lock. I think that's his best result in ASR Supercars as well. Daniel Cox home for 6th. Ahead of Rutledge. Ahead of Stenberg, who finishes in 8th. Ryan Smith deemed to be 9th, but of course that's because we've seen Mitchell Steele-Allison has been docked a lap, so that'll all be sorted out. So it'll be Steele-Allison in 9th with a time penalty to be served, and Brett Foley, who's currently showing as 10th there, will actually be 11th because Ryan Smith will be deemed to be 10th. Wow.
Yeah, it's Wales are good. I'm just thumbing through the results now, and a lot of this was granted with 2 rounds into the year. There's so much that can still happen. I think this will be the most unscriptable race that we've had.
Yeah, agreed.
The amount of guys that have either picked up first podiums, been in position for first podiums, first top 5s, first top 10s, or broken droughts in the process. And then the big hitters that have either big hitters that come into the night, we thinking, yeah, you'll do well, or in the case of Newing, that have popped up really good on pace and then just not had it go their way.
No, you're right.
There's so many stories out of this one.
There's a lot of stories out of this one, I think, that need to be heard when it comes to all of this. We're just punching in a few little bits and pieces up here just so we can get an idea of what on earth happened in all of this, because we need to actually have a little bit of a chat with some of our top people in all of this just to see what actually happened after it's all said and done. So obviously Will Devonish is a clear winner for the round with 2 wins. And then you look at, I think Damon McDonald will be the 2nd potentially, I think, and then maybe Luke Speck 3rd overall for the round. So 180 points for sorry, just my bad there. It is 267 points for Damon McDonald and 249 for Speck. So yes, the top 3 for the round. Will Devonish, followed by Damon McDonald, and followed by Luke Speck. So, I wouldn't have predicted that to be the top 3 at the end of the night, but it is what it is. Rhodey will do the honours in a moment of dragging those gentlemen up to have a chat with us. But I'm a bit. It's been a bit of an interesting night, Rhodey. That one was definitely one that had us guessing as to how that was going to work out. Didn't expect to have the number of safety cars that we did in that one, all things considered, because the first race was clean.
That was interesting. Yeah, I'd been cautiously optimistic. The inverse of cautiously optimistic about how this race and how this night would go, given how Dev Series went 7 days ago, and given the relative crossover with drivers in the field. But no, race one went very well. I was thinking, okay, this is good. Yeah, it was for fairly innocuous stuff to a degree. And look, the drivers, I think, did a pretty good job generally tonight. But yeah, to pick up 3 in that second race, definitely, I think, safety car breeds safety car, especially with the second and then the third. But look, I think, honestly, if we had no safety cars at Gold Coast, people would have been pinching themselves and worried that this was a dream.
Yeah, they would have been
Gold
thinking
Coast was never that clean.
They would have been thinking that there was a voodoo doll somewhere that would have been, being cushioned with pins or something. I don't know. It would have been one of those little things that, yeah, as you said, if there hadn't been a safety car at Gold Coast, people would have left tonight and gone, what the frack? It was going to be one of those little things. So, at the end of the day, we finally got there. We got ourselves some race winners, and we got ourselves some round winners. And Rady, we're going to start with the first one of those, which is Will Devonish.
We shall. So, Will, what to say? What to say aside from a perfect round? I think, as things said, it wasn't necessarily the easiest work to get there in race number 2, but pretty cruisy in race number 1.
Yeah, a bit surprised in race number 1. And yeah, I was pretty gutted that Noah couldn't actually race, because I think he would have walked away from everyone. But yeah, didn't expect it tonight, and really happy with how it turned out. And I'm also really proud of the other guys in the booth at the moment. Like they race absolutely fantastically, and yeah, it's great to see him up fighting for the lead.
Beautiful. Well, it definitely on paper was a bit cruisy in the first race, but the misfortune of others, unfortunately, with Newing out late and with Stenberg caught at a bad time. But race 2, they were keeping you honest for a good part there. I think Damon nearly had your measure at points there.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a bit of a kerfuffle with Foley and I think Spec early on, and I actually had a damaged car for all that race, so I was actually nursing it a bit, and yeah, like Damon kept the pressure on, so we really couldn't back off. So yeah, race 2 was really fun, really enjoyable, and yeah, I'm really happy about the round actually.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, you walk out of the giving up the 2-race format for next round, and we're heading off to Topor. What's your thoughts?
Unfortunately, I won't be able to make Topor, and I think Cam's out as well, so it's going to be light running for CRE. We'll try and wrangle in some people on the bench at the moment, but yeah, you probably won't see as a bigger showing for CRE next round.
Fair enough. Well, great work tonight, and well, we won't catch you next round. We will be definitely seeing you though at round 4 at Simmons Plains.
Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on over to the second place driver for the round, which is Damon McDonald. Damon, much more of a representative showing compared to where you've been at round 1, and much more like what we've seen from you in Dev Series so far.
Yeah, no, that was cool. I didn't quite expect to get the positions at the end that I did, but hey, I'll take it. Bit of fortune in race 1 with what happened, with unfortunate mistakes from others, but it all fell in my hands there. And yeah, race 2 was, I guess, you just battled out and waited for all the safety cars to end at the end and go for that 2-lap sprint.
Absolutely, you had the good challenge in the first race with the way that strategies play it out. Very much more a case of a direct fight in race 2. Which one did you find more fun?
Oh, race 2 for sure. I didn't expect to have the pace to keep up with Will, let alone put some pressure on him. Given that he had a broken car, he's still driving fast as ever. But yeah, I was pretty happy to be up there. But yeah, good work to Will taking out the round, and good work to Specky for taking out third. Good to see us all up here.
Absolutely. Well, we're moving on to Topor next, a track that have you actually been to Topor before? And if you well, either way, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I did Topor in the Dev Series last year. It was a bit of a last minute practice and race for me, but I ended up finding the track pretty enjoyable once you get in the flow of it. Looking forward to it this weekend. Next round.
All good. Well, good to see you up here, Damon, and congrats on your first and second ASR Supercars Championship podiums. And we'll catch you in a couple of weeks' time at Topor.
Not too easy. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
And moving on over to Luke Speck, who was another driver to have claimed their first Supercars podium. And Specky, at what point in that second race did you stop sweating about your strategy?
Second podium. I got one at Gold Coast last year. But after
Sorry, I corrected. Yep.
when that safety car came out, I thought I was done. I was thinking, maybe a top 10 to be on, but I had after my shitty bomb at Foley, I had about 40-degree right hand down and a 30-second pit stop, and ended up third.
Fair enough. Well, it was a brave call going the counter strategy. Was that influenced by the race itself, or was that something you had planned going into it?
What, starting soft, going hard? No, that was planned. I just felt
well, that and pitting as early as you did.
I only pitted because of the damage. I just couldn't make turn one without locking both fronts. So the option was to pit, repair the car, and damage limitation from there. But and then pick my way through. People made mistakes and got fortunate to end up third. But
Fair enough. Well, generally a strong run for you tonight with the fourth as well in race number one, and that's going to put you in a good position. That's actually putting you tied in sixth place currently, pre any stewarding from this round. You're tied with Termo. What's your thoughts going into Topor?
I don't know. Tricky track. Haven't done any Gen 3 work there yet, but me and Damon will probably crack into it after Dev and figure out what works on the car and have a good crack.
Fair enough. Well, great work tonight by yourself, Specky, to pick up what was your second ASR Supercars Championship podium. I'm going to catch you in a few weeks' time at Topor.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that has been our round podium.
Thank you very much, Rody. As always, good to have a couple of new faces up here in the commentary, having a little bit of a chat. As you said, Specky's had a podium before at Gold Coast last year. It escapes my memory whether we actually did talk to him or not. Good to hear the voices of Damon McDonald as well, just to get his thoughts on how things went. And he's gone about it, and he's been a bit of a quiet achiever so far in ASR Supercars. We talked about, the whole speculation about what was going to happen with him this year because of how he'd improved his sim racing over the off season. And when we turned up and everybody thought, he's going to come along, he's going to be a real threat this year, and rah. And he's gone about just, improving himself in such a way that he hasn't really caught the observation of a lot of people yet, but he's caught their attention now, I think.
Oh, he has, yeah. It's been interesting to see for him, as with a few of the guys with results, and a few drivers mentioned it in those interviews, is being able to not so much take advantage of, but finding positions as a result of the misfortune of others. That's not going to be a guaranteed thing to fall throughout the rest of the season, and whether they can still maintain those sorts of results and that sort of speed relative to the cars around them when everyone else is firing on all cylinders, that'll be something that we're still yet to see. But the advantage is, at least for the next couple of tracks, they are, at risk of offending some people, they are actual race tracks. So we're going to find the racing, I think, is going to be a lot more natural there, a lot more of what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I think so too. There's only at Topor, when we go there, there's a very limited sort of amount of opportunities to do things like your passing and stuff like that, because it does happen at only one part of two parts of the track, usually at the end of what's called the back straight, but it's a short shoot, it's a big long shoot before you get into the last couple of corners. Before you get onto the front straight. Front straight's an opportunity as well at turn number one. And then there's only really one more spot left, actually two more spots left on the circuit. Down to the hairpin, if you can get a good run out of a really tricky sort of sequence of corners, you can get down the inside there and get a pass done. And then coming up and over the rise at turn 5 is a difficult challenge, because you've got to be able to follow closely through a couple of sequence of corners and then be able to pull something off. So it will be an interesting challenge. So don't forget, for Development Series drivers, that round comes up next week for you on Friday. So that, of course, is going to be the 11th of April. And for the Supercars drivers, it'll obviously be broadcasted here on Outlaw Broadcasting, and that is on Anzac Day, so the 25th of April. Is when that one is. So that one's definitely been we've had a couple of days in the past where we've raced on days of significance. We actually got a copyright strike for one of them back in 2018, which was rather disappointing. But we are not we're not strangers for racing on days of memorial and things like that. So it'll be a good night, and we hope to see you all again then. So until next time, everybody, please drive safely, and see you in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.